loud?
Yep.
All right, so officially from here on out, everything that you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you.
And no member.
Someone's been arrested.
That's why I moved into podcasting. It's a hell of a lot
Listen, we don't
safer.
talk about that.
What's up and welcome to Retcon Air, the Plotline Repair Podcast. Like the name suggests, this is a podcast that takes a look at the plot lines of books, movies, video games, and even Broadway shows. Today, however, instead of breaking down a storyline, we're going to break apart a topic of far greater importance, gamer toxicity. And we're going to cover it in 3 different areas: social media, online gaming, and in person. We're also going to share a handful of stories about online toxicity in the gaming space that people have experienced. We'll end by discussing a few possible ways that we could start the process of fixing toxicity in the gaming space. To help me pull this off, Bryar and I will be joined by the hosts of the Color Me Geeked Podcast, Sami and Jett. So if that sounds good to you, stick around as we break down gamer toxicity. So the first order of business is I'd like to thank each of you for coming on to, be a part of this topic to actually talk about toxicity in gaming in general. So Sami, Jett, Bryar, thank each of you for coming on.
Finger guns.
Thank you for having us.
So obviously this is the first time that we've ever done a collaborative podcast, so you might hear us talk over each other a little bit. We're going to just figure out our way through that. But the topic is beefy enough to where I wanted multiple voices on this. You can see there's men and women on this podcast because a lot of the stories that I'm going to read in a second are from women, and I think having that opinion is really interesting, especially considering that there's 3 guys talking about our experiences. I think to balance it to talk about the female experience is pretty good as well. We're going to have Shelby on this show, but unfortunately she's under the weather, so we hope that she has a speedy recovery. We're going to miss her on the show, but we're going to get through this anyway. So you know who I am, you know who Bryar is if you're into the show, but you probably don't know anything about Sami or Jett unless you're into their podcast. So if you two don't mind, why don't you take a few moments and just kind of talk about who you are, tell us some information about your podcast, maybe why you got started in the first place, and just really, tell us about you.
Hi. All right. So my name's Sami. I am co-host of the Color Me Geeked Podcast. So we really started this podcast because gaming brought us together as a couple and as friends. And so being able to take a passion that we have in this industry and make content for it is just something we've always wanted to do. So we kind of took the opportunity of the hellhole that is 2020 and decided to make it a little bit better place.
Fair enough.
Right on.
And then what about you, Jett?
I really can't say anything extra about that. So.
What's your background? So, I mean, we talked a little bit about off camera, like what you guys do for work. Are you comfortable talking about what you guys do, or do you want to keep that separate, or,
Yep. No, it's okay. I work for Best Buy currently. I don't speak for the brand of their company, but I'm currently a mobile sales rep. So I don't really get to talk games as much as I want, but with the mobile world coming into the gaming aspect of it, it's actually becoming more of my day-to-day life now.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm very excited. I'm very passionate.
My name's Jett. I work at GameStop, managed it for, going on 11 years now. So this, especially this kind of podcast, is not, the content we're talking about on this podcast is not new to me, unfortunately. I've worked there for 11 years. I've seen the ins and outs, the ups and the downs of the gaming industry. And like she said, just kind of wanted to do something different for 2020. And we thought, you know what? There's not a lot of couples out there that get their voices together for this, so we thought it'd be a cool little thing to do.
Absolutely.
I also told them this is what we're going to do, so that worked out.
Well, I was excited when you guys reached out wanting to do a collaboration episode. I thought it was a great idea. We were looking forward to doing that anyway, so it was a great opportunity to jump on. As far as work history, Bryar and I both hail from GameStop back in the old days. I put 3 years into it. Bryar, did you put 3 years in as well?
Roundabout.
Yeah. So I was hired in as a senior game advisor, worked my way up to an assistant. And then when I graduated college, I got the job that I have now as a videographer. Bryar, you worked there you started as a GA?
You hired me as a GA.
Yeah.
Because I remember I came in and asked for an application. You just slammed one down in front of me, told me to, and I quote, fill that bitch out.
Pretty much how I was hired too, actually.
When you spot talent, and you don't want it to get away.
And I remember I ran into our SL at the time, late, like a week later, she's like, "Hey, you filled out an application, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah." Devon wrote a note on that just says hire this MFer. So like right on.
And so I bring that up because, so we're going to talk about gamer toxicity. And I think if we were just people that played video games online, that would just be one element of the spectrum. But why I wanted to make sure that, Jett kind of jumped in, and I was glad that you guys were comfortable talking about that, is Jett has 11 years experience working for GameStop. Sami right now is working at Best Buy. Bryar and I have a lot of years of experience, not only working through, working at GameStop during Black Fridays and Christmas and stuff, but we've been a part of a console launch as well. The thing that's unfortunate, that Jett is going to have to go through again, and Sami is going to have to go through again, is how insane people become when supply doesn't meet demand. And toxicity is a huge conversation of that. So as much as we're going to talk about our experiences with gaming online, we're also going to talk about the in-person issues in addition to what people are talking about online and then playing online together. So let's get started. Let's talk about your stories that were shared with us. So when we were putting together some research, I wanted to make sure that in addition to our own experiences, I just wanted to solicit a bunch of feedback from the online community. So I reached out on Facebook in this PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 Facebook group, and I asked a pretty simple question, essentially two basic questions. Have you ever personally experienced online toxicity while gaming? If so, how, obviously? And then two, how would you combat that? Because that's pretty much it. If we're going to talk about the problem, I want to make sure that we carve out some time to talk about a solution. So I'm going to read a handful of these. Thank you, everybody that participated, jumped in, and gave some feedback. This first person goes by Chris, but they said that they can fix everything by just turning off your PC or console. So that's pretty straightforward, I guess. The first real one about your own personal experience with online gaming toxicity is from a lady named Angie. Try being a girl in the gaming community. Most guys just think we are noobs and trash, or they come on my Twitch asking for boobs and nudes, then crack jokes about women gaming, or getting these weird ass messages on PlayStation Network about rating boobs or just getting sent dick pics. So I'm not, this isn't a podcast that's going to split hairs or, kind of pull our punches. Like, this is the issues that we're talking about right now. Sami, have you dealt with any of that stuff at all or not really?
Oh yeah, hands down. Anytime. Really? So I don't really play online a lot. But in the few times that I've had, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with Finding Nemo, but anytime you hop on and they're like, girl, and then you start getting like,
I get that.
comments about like, suck my dick, go make me a sandwich. It's pretty consistent, and it's unfortunately something I've had to just get used to.
Yeah.
As a female in the gaming industry, but it's not even, female gamers make up, I think, like 45%.
Oh, damn.
So,
that's a lot more than I thought, actually.
It's a really high statistic, and it's really frustrating.
What we'll get into whys later on. I almost derailed this entire conversation and started going into why, but we'll get to the why later on. So let's keep on going. So Ray writes in, literally, I just left a Final Fantasy VII group because I was being harassed by a guy and getting unsolicited pics, and he kept trying to coerce me into calls. I blocked and reported him to the admin. He literally told me that's what boys do and to tolerate that. So that's an admin saying that's what boys do and to tolerate it. And then she keeps writing, it's really unfair, and a lot of the time women are just usually objectified in games, which I'm not mad about, but when they think it's okay to treat real women like that, it's disgusting. Unfortunately, it's normal in the gaming community. Matt writes in, I'm always amazed at Call of Duty. I never mute anyone, but it never fails if I forget or decide to actually try talking to people that it's nothing but racial slurs, name calling, and just being a jackass. Older sounding adults, but even those who are obviously young kids talking the same way. It's insane. I'd throw my son's TV out the window if I ever heard him say anything close to what those kids say. Which is a good point. I mean, Bryar and I both have kids. If I ever came downstairs and I heard my daughter, or, as my son gets older, like I lose my mind. I don't know if I would break something because obviously I paid for it, but I definitely take it away. Dominic writes in, I think that online gaming has to have a certain amount of trash talk. I don't even get upset when with people if they are a little over the top. And for the people who go to the extreme and spew out crazy racism and threats, I just block them or mute them. It's pretty straightforward, which is pretty much the easiest fix. I mean, like that one guy wrote in, a lot of people will go into a lobby and just mute everybody. I've been doing that more and more in Red Dead Online, because I don't know if you guys have played Red Dead Redemption Online recently, but it's kind of a dumpster fire. Let's see. Issaic writes in, I grew up with Black Ops 1, hadn't heard or seen Jack, but if you haven't experienced it, and Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, gotta have balls of steel and gotta know hardcore shit talk, then you get respected. So I think what Issaic is saying, that there's certain games where if you're going to come at him, you got to come correct or you're going to get eaten alive. So that's pretty much it. So those are real people. I didn't make any of that shit up. I just simply asked for people to tell me some of their experiences, and that's a lot. So those are from the online community. Sammy shared some of hers. So Jett and Bryar, do you guys have any experiences yourselves about either having somebody be a total douche to you, or being in a lobby where somebody was being a douche to somebody else, or even something that you might even regret if you were in a fit of rage and maybe went a little harder than you thought?
For sure.
Go for it, Bryar.
I mean, and I'll touch on it more when we get to my segment later, but I mean, yeah, I've been told so much. My favorite is constantly being told to go kill myself anytime I don't get enough kills in the match. So, I mean, there's that. Usually just a lot of 12-year-olds being really mean.
You've been watching too much South Park.
Yeah, that is, and I was in the same area you guys were with the 360 in Black Ops and COD and stuff like that. A couple of them that distinctly remember me. I've got a buddy of mine, and the group that I played with, especially in Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2, was definitely a diverse group. We had, Hispanics, we had blacks, people of color, to be correct there. And as soon as their mics would be unmuted, you would hear the racial slurs going on. Because there's the different dialects we all kind of speak in, and as soon as those were done, you would just hear them, these kids lipping off and saying some of the most vulgar stuff. And we didn't play with women at the time. It's just because we didn't at that time. But just for them alone, you would feel so bad that these people that would have no clue who you are, what you do for a living, their first response is to, N-word this, go kill yourself, or calling them buddy of mine a wetback to go build their fence or go clean their garden up and stuff like that. It was just appalling.
Yeah,
They
ridiculous.
need to get back to Home Depot.
Yeah, back to Home Depot. You're just like, what the hell, guys?
Yeah.
And it's always really young kids too. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. It's always what sounds like 12 to 15-year-old kids out there. I'm like, God, where? I've heard recordings online of kids just going hard, throwing the racial slurs, MF and this and F that, and then you hear their mom come in the background and start tearing them a new one.
I've never got to hear that live, but man, I've
That's
always
the thing.
wanted to.
I've never heard it live. Always wanted to.
It'd be the best. Maybe one day. If I could wish for one thing before I died, it would be to listen to a 13-year-old kid lose his mind, and then his mom would come just beat his ass on air. That would just be my favorite thing.
So great.
I'll just pull the slipper off and just go.
Yeah,
to town.
you hear the thwapping of the slipper on her, and then all of a sudden you just see person disconnected, and you're like, yes, justice. I hope that somebody
Get on
just pulled the
TikTok
cable.
if you want to see that. Hands down.
Nice. I'm gonna have to go into a rabbit hole after this. For me, I don't know. I'm not that aggressive of a person. I can get mad or whatever, but for the most part, I generally enjoy playing online unless I'm in a pissy mood or whatever. But there's been a couple of times on Rocket League where people have literally asked for my address so they can come and fight me in person, and I'm sitting there we're playing Rocket League. The game that we're playing is a car that has rocket boosters and a soccer ball that's oversized, bigger than all of our cars, and we can kind of fly around. How are you so upset over this game that you're going to the point where you're trying to get my home address? It's just it's insane. It's insane how quickly, and maybe it's the age thing. Maybe it's just the fact that the young mind of a person who doesn't have a great grip on emotional control or whatever is just completely untethered and can just go as hard as they want to in an online space without any fear of repercussion or reprisal. But maybe that's part of it. It's just the safety of knowing they're online and their mom is downstairs or at work or stripping, whatever their mom's doing. Who knows why people have broken homes. But it's just frustrating. It is really, really frustrating. So, those stories were heartbreaking. Our stories, were unfortunate. But what I know is that we're going to talk about this and we're going to be able to try to maybe make a couple things that we can do differently to maybe do this a little bit better. So
I will say too,
yeah, go ahead.
real quick, the only time I ever play online anymore, if I have a headset on, I'm in a party and I have everything set to prioritize party chat over game chat, so I don't hear people anymore.
That's a good point. Do you guys usually ever just join online matches and just talk to whomever is in there?
No, it's private chat anymore.
Avengers has kind of forced my hand on that, because if you join online, you're thrown into a party of four, and Marvel's Avengers is super cooperative, so you almost need to. But a lot of the time, I regret it the second I get there. It's the worst.
You're loving Marvel
Dumb,
Avengers.
It's so good. Are you playing on PlayStation 4?
Yep.
So we'll talk later, and we'll
Yeah.
exchange PlayStation names.
Sounds good.
All right. With that note, Jett, there's been a lot of news surrounding online toxicity with social media specific to gamers. There's been a couple big stories with Spider-Man. The Last of Us Part 2 is a big one. There's been a lot of stuff specifically that's been more public than normal, because I mean a lot of the online stuff is kind of contained in a box because either you know about that world or you don't. But with these online games, as big as they are, as crazy as these threats are, I mean that's a really big thing. So for the segment covering social media toxicity, Jett, this is all you. So you go ahead and take the floor and see where we go.
When I started doing the research of this, I was just kind of looking through some of the tweets and stuff like that, and somebody posted a quote from Oscar Wilde that, for me, hit the nail on the head. It says, "Give a man a mask, and I'll show you his true face." And that is what the internet does at this point in time. We talked a little bit about it, like that fearlessness from repercussions and stuff like that. We've seen these kind of threats kind of slowly and gradually start gaining momentum, unfortunately, over the years. I mean, we had Gamergate a few years ago, which was kind of the catalyst for what we see, and that's a whole different, a whole different podcast to get into.
Yeah.
And then we get The Last of Us 2, where Neil, the leaks happen, and Neil gets the death threats, and then people start playing the game, and Laura gets the death threats. And then they drop the news about the PS5 remake for Peter Parker's the voice actor's face becoming more of the predominant what it's going to be. And it's kind of mind-boggling that as a community, we are so gung-ho on ownership of what honestly boils down to ones and zeros. That's all these are. They're ones and zeros. None of these fake characters are real. For as much as Spider-Man and Joel and Ellie and all this stuff that have touched our lives, they're not real in the long run. We see POCs, people of color, getting told that they're only there to fill a quota, or that they're there just because of their skin tone.
That's a good fucking point. I remember when the branding came out, it was one of the Battlefield games, right? And it was the first time an African-American gamer was like on the cover of it. And I think I remember a bunch of people flipping out because, that it's supposed to be a white guy. And now it's, what's it going to be if it's a black guy next? What is it going to be next time? Is it going to be, an Asian woman or whatever? And like people were just so outraged at who the person was. Like, what gave you the right to flip out about something that you had no creative input on? You're not a writer for the game. You're not a producer for the game. You're not a developer for the game. You're a consumer. I have no right to tell you how to make a Instapot. I have no right to tell you how to make a refrigerator. I can critique the one that you made, but like that's on you to do that shit. Like it's just crazy that there's like this sense of entitlement with everything that's just unjustified in my opinion.
Well, to go onto that too, I mean, like, did having an individual of color on the cover affect the game in any way, shape, or form? No, it's literally just the cover of the game case. You throw the game case in a drawer anyways. Why does it matter?
And it's been a while since it came out, but if I remember correctly, weren't they trying to tell a story specifically about a battalion out of like Harlem in New York? Like, wasn't that a big part of that? So not only was it this person, but it was also this person's background who hadn't really been represented in a military game. And so I'm a Marine Corps veteran. So like, I want you to tell me those stories. I want to hear about the stories of battalions that I'd never heard of before and the different ways that they were impacted and stuff. Like that is a totally normal thing. And I just don't understand the outright misplaced outrage on something as simple as that. It's just so confusing to me.
And like how garbage would it have been too if, okay, so this game's telling the story of this battalion. How garbage would it have been had they put a white guy on the cover and then tell you that story instead? Like,
you've already done that. You've been doing that. That's what we've been doing. That's the game that we've been playing since I was a kid. It's ridiculous that you're going to keep on telling me the same style of story over and over. Like you got to evolve the format more than that. There's way more stories than just that. There really is.
And again, back to the whole, does it really matter who's on the cover? Like it's not affecting the gameplay. It's not affecting it affected the story in the sense of like, that's the story's focus, but like, it's not affecting the game. You're not getting, it's the same game.
Yeah.
Who cares who's on the cover? There's no reason to throw a fit. It's, all this outrage and everything just because of who they decided to put on the cover. Like everyone just needs to calm down just a hair,
We as granted, I speak for myself to a certain extent of this stuff. Like we, as white gamers, we've been the focus forever and a day. That's what we were, the audience that they draw to, and we're finally getting to that point where we know inclusion needs to be there. We know that this stuff has to be there, every color of the spectrum. And unfortunately, what Twitter and Facebook and some of these other groups do is they create an echo chamber for this small core group of gamers that is the loud, obnoxious bastards.
Yeah.
The ones that should be the quietest, because they're the smallest subset of this group. They get to be the loudest because there is no repercussions.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there stopping them from just being assholes. And unfortunately, that's where we're at right now. And I know you said, we'll talk about later, like, how do we fix that? That's a good question. Like, for as much as we want to try, like, where do we start this other than speaking up and having these kind of conversations and saying, like, I don't need to be the main character of this game. It doesn't need to revolve around me, and I can still enjoy this.
Well, and that's the thing. You start looking back at games, you're like, Street Fighter, Ryu, oh, fuck, that guy looks like me. Jedi Fallen Order, oh, fuck, that guy looks like me. Most of the Battlefield games, oh, fuck, that guy looks like me. Like, every single game is just a guy that looks like me. And if you're a white guy grown up gaming, it's awesome. But, like, so Sammy, what's the first female character that you identified with in a game in recent memory? 5 years, 10 years?
9 or 10 years. That I identified. That's a hard question.
Like, as a girl, did you ever have a character that, like, you clicked with? Like, for me, like, Nathan Drake in Uncharted, I was like, oh, fuck, look at my goddamn shirt. Like, obviously, baseball tee, dumb haircut, stupid white guy that's snarky. Like, I can see myself in Nathan Drake very, very instantly. So, like, is there any other character, like, I don't want to say, like, Samus Aran or, like, Lara Croft. Like, is there any female character that just clicked with you?
This is going to sound really stupid, and just not stupid, but to kind of go back, I started playing on the PlayStation 1 era. I think I'm the youngest out of this group. I'm 27. Okay. That being said, I never have identified with a character because I'm depression, anxiety-ridden, blonde hair, blue-eyed, but I always tried to be Lara Croft in the sense of, you can't fuck with me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what was your first Lara, like, Tomb Raider title? Was it on the PlayStation 1, one of the early ones?
It was the number 2, actually. Tomb Raider 2.
Nice. So
I made a whole video about it.
How old were you when that came out?
God, that came out, 98, 99?
And so how long had you been, and I'm sorry, I'm asking you all these, like, date questions because, like,
no, you're good.
What I'm trying to do is get a data set of time. Legend of Zelda was like a little blurry, weird guy and stuff like that. And then finally evolved up to a point where I started seeing, like, Johnny Cage was like an awesome white guy in a video game and stuff like that. Yep. So I remember being young and kind of seeing myself in gaming, but I guess I'm trying to figure out is, like, how long did it take you in your gaming career to find something that really, like, identified and resonated with you?
So the one that I can really identify and resonate with me was Abby from The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay.
And that's the most recent memory that I've looked at a character and be like, I get you. One, nice. I'm a female who lifts. I love lifting weights. It's a passion of mine. I love the gym. I'm very goal oriented and I'm very focused. And when I want something, I achieve it. But I've also have a past that has driven me to seek revenge and be a very unhealthy individual in that sense. So to put that into a character was so fulfilling.
And so you beat me to it. So what I was going to ask is, like, so what does that do to you when you see yourself represented in a character and you can kind of play their journey and you can see some of their decisions and you can kind of understand what does that do to you as a gamer? It makes you feel fulfilled. What people, like those stupid subset groups that Jett was talking about, is they're talking about, well, if you're not making another white character, then we're losing ground. You fucking have that ground. You'll never not have those characters. Cal Kestis will never not be a redheaded white character. Like, that's who that is. And so finally, the redheaded community finally has a hero that they can kind of jump into. Like, that stuff is really important. And if you don't have new games that are looking like all the old games that you had, that's an okay thing, because that means people like Sammy can now be represented. Miles Morales, how many people, so we just lost Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa. How inspirational was Black Panther to that entire community.
Right.
And so you have a character like Miles Morales, and you're seeing these people that are getting so jacked up about that because representation matters. And I think for us, and Jett, you had said it very, very succinctly, it's on us as white gamers to just chill the fuck out about it and know that it's okay. You have no right to get outraged that they're making other games to represent other people. That is a great thing. That is an okay thing. And for some reason, white people get all up in arms about it. It's the craziest thing.
Sammy and I've had discussion with like this core group in a broader sense of some of the other stuff that, as we learn, well, I'm sure we'll be able to talk in depth more. But it boils down to, for me, these people don't want to lose the status quo. Like, they're comfortable with where they're at. They don't want to see anybody but themselves put above themselves. And they're afraid that a Miles Morales is going to, an Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Love Aloy.
Like that, that was one of my favorite games of 2017?
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite games. Like, they're afraid that this is going to take away from them, and so they get to be as loud and obnoxious as they can. And I guess that's why I'm still dumbfounded that Brian Intihar, I think is how you pronounce his last name, like, why he's getting death threats for some minor facial tweaks to make the game better. Like, he's still your blue-collar white boy living down the street. They just cleaned it up to match what the voice actor is like.
So to me, sticker shock, I get it. Like, so I have the platinum for that game. Bryar has the platinum for that game. Did you guys platinum Spider-Man?
I didn't platinum because I need to go back through and do a couple of challenges and then do the DLC.
Did you beat it though?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I mean, you beat that game if you played through all the DLC story. Like, I went through some shit with that version of Peter Parker, so I'm not as interested in the newer version because that's not the version that I saw say what he said to Aunt May toward the end of that storyline. Yeah. That's who that Peter Parker is for me. So I don't have an interest. Aunt May. I don't have an interest in doing that again with some other weird random white guy. I just don't care. You can tell me all day long about graphics and stuff like that, but that's not my version for this game universe like this version is. And that's a me problem to get over. Once I made my peace with that, I had no desire to go and talk shit to people about why it was wrong or whatever. Because if you really boil it down, this is just a fancier version of Pong, and they changed the ball from white to red. That's all they did. And people lost their shit over it. And it did not make sense, and it was not warranted, and it was not acceptable. And I think the biggest issue right now with toxicity in general is that there's no accountability. If we're good on that, why don't we move on from Toxicity Online? Jett, great job with that. All right, Sammy, we've been talking a lot about a bunch of other stuff, but it's your time now. We're going to talk about gaming toxicity in person. We all have a retail background. You two are actually still in the trenches, unfortunately. We'll pray for you come Black Friday. Sammy, why don't you go ahead and take the floor? Let's talk about in-person gaming toxicity.
All right, so in-person gaming toxicity, we've broken this down into several different parts, and I kind of want your input, especially working GameStop, because obviously I'm not a game-focused retail. I'm an electronics seller. So Black Friday, Christmas, toxic shoppers. Sorry, I can't count 3. I went to public school.
Toxic shoppers and toxic shoppers, I think, work together in tandem. Yeah. I think you were
right on it. Honestly, I think they're the same thing. Potato, you know?
Yeah. So Black Friday for me, I'm such on autopilot mode when I go into that store is I don't know what a toxic shopper is that weekend, but I don't know how the coronavirus is going to affect that because now we're having a supply and demand chain. And I'm already getting between Samsung releasing new phones, the Xbox pre-order fiasco, the Sony pre-order shit show, how Black Friday is going to work out for major retailers. And all I'm going to say on this matter right now is be fucking nice to your retail workers.
Yeah.
Because they're going to come in and they're not going to understand supply and demand. Like, I'm sorry, these are shipped overseas. They are manufactured overseas. Sony is not state-based, guys. I don't know how you don't know this.
And it's not even like you're franchise-based. You don't get to pick how many allotments come to Best Buy. Jett doesn't get to pick how many consoles come to GameStop. All he can do is try to get pre-orders on them, and then Sony will cut a deal with GameStop and Best Buy and Target and Walmart, and then they'll get X amount of consoles, and then their corporate divisions will go, hey, you're high-performing, you get X over your pre-orders. You're low-performing, fuck you. You don't even get your pre-orders. It
And,
has nothing to do with Sami, with Jett, with me, with Bryar.
Yeah.
We have never been allowed to make any other decision other than just trying to talk you into pre-ordering it so you get one. And
I hated that customers never understood that too. It was like, well, why didn't you order more? I'm like, you don't understand. I don't order these. I have no control over this. Like, well, because again, the store Devon and I worked in, there was another one. What, like, not even
5 minutes? Yeah, 5 minutes away. Yeah.
To kind of put in perspective, I work in the smallest Best Buy in the United States. Or sorry, second smallest now. The second smallest Best Buy in the United States.
Nice.
Jesus. Like the store.
I'm going to get my face ripped off, and I'm prepared for it.
Oh,
Because
for sure.
come at me, Karen.
I think Bryar and I worked in the small, like one of the smaller GameStops in existence. It was like a little shape of it was in the shape of a triangle. It was wedged in to like a little nook. We didn't have.
We were a
space
mall
at all.
store, and we
Yeah.
had like one of the smallest floor space shops in
the mall.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And like the one across across town from us just crushed us in terms of like how much floor space they had, how much shelf space
they were a
had. They were
standalone building.
massive.
Is crazy. It was
So, like,
awesome.
That's
you go over there,
insane.
like it's fucking Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and like people are like coming in, they're pre-ordering everything, and they're getting pro cards left and right, and like I'm over there like doing great sales numbers because I'm like I have to try so hard at the mall, and they come over to this fucking store, and I don't have to try it all, and it's perplexing. It's
Like,
witchcraft.
well, and, like people would always come in too, like, well, the other store got 20 of these consoles. Why did you only get 5? I'm like, because I'm a mall store and I'm like a 10-foot by 20-foot store. Like, what do you want from me?
Yeah, man.
I just work here.
Yeah.
Like, look, man, I don't order shit.
We don't make this shit in the back. There's not guys back there just with hammers building
I've
PlayStations.
had somebody tell me to go in the back and make them another copy. Yeah, I literally had to look and just stop because I was like, no, you can't be that. Oh, okay. No, that's not how this works.
Yeah. This
I had
isn't
a
ad hoc.
dude-
We don't make them to order.
I had a dude threaten to
I've
call,
got a
like,
sweatshop in the back.
for the NES launch, I had a dude threaten to call corporate on me because I didn't have enough. Like, again, it was single staff, so I was the only one working. So I walked out to the gate and like, hey, I got however many it was. Sorry. I had a dude threaten to call corporate on me. I'm like, go for it. I honestly don't care.
Get more for us. Our store is 6506. If you could send it to us, that would be great.
But
Right?
he stood at the front of the cash wrap on hold with corporate. And I'm like, I don't know what you're gonna do, dude. And finally, corporate hung up on it.
Right?
Respect.
Because what are you going to do? And I think Black Friday is going to derail this back into toxicity here. The resellers, they're going to eat people alive.
Yep.
I think that's where Black Friday, Christmas conglomerate happens, and that's where we get the most toxic shoppers, is when you don't meet the resellers' demand because these people have somehow made a living on screwing someone else over. They should go work for the U.S. government.
When the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One came out, I remember one guy who bought 3 of them, and he even laughed when we picked him up, and he said like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna flip these online." He came back 20 days later because you have to come back before 30 days, I think it is, or whatever it is, to try to return them. Or no, I think he was after the window because he couldn't. So he came back after the 30-day window to try to return them because he couldn't sell them online because for whatever reason nobody wanted them. And we couldn't take him back because it had been too long. And then he lost his mind because his whole business plan was flipping these online. And when it didn't work, and then he found out he had to keep them and nobody wanted them anymore, like he lost his shit. And that had nothing to do with me. I didn't decide the 30-day return policy. That is on GameStop. I didn't tell him to try to flip that shit online. He made that decision. And it didn't work out for him. And so he's going to take it out on me because his shitty plan didn't work out. Like, I had nothing to do with
Because you're
that.
wearing a name tag and a polo, you're no longer a human, and that kind of draws back into that what Jett was saying. They have no accountability for their actions at that point, because how many times have we had bosses, and thankfully I don't have much of this issue anymore, that give away or just give in to the customer or give in to these people for their bad behavior. And I think that's where it really stems in that person-to-person interaction that we see.
Yeah. And I get the frustration because you work at GameStop, you want to make sure every customer has what they need. Like that's the gig. The gig is making sure that and then like my favorite thing was like building out like your Christmas morning. Parents would come in, grandparents would come in, just not having a good understanding of like gaming in general or any of the equipment. So I got to go and help these people figure out, you're going to blow your kid's mind if you get this, this, and this. It's not too much. It's what you're going to need. And then they've come back just so supercharged and so excited that we got to help with their Christmas. On the flip side of that shit, you have these people that come in and it's Black Friday and shit's on fire and the wait times are longer and like
and our deals aren't good enough.
Yeah, there's issue with supply. And then I remember this one lady.
That's your fault too.
I'll never forget. She looked dead at me. She's like, I just think you in the store are a joke. And it was just one of those things where like I was so tired. I'd been at, on Black Friday for however many hours I'd been there. I'm exhausted. And I'm like, God damn it. I just remember feeling like shit about myself. Like nothing that happened in that store was anything that I can control. I was just trying to manage it as best I could. And I just wasn't doing a great job because it was Black Friday. And
because your goal is not to fuck up Christmas. Like that is literally the store's motto at that point.
But then you have a person who's having a shitty day or something's taking too long and they just decide, you know what? Fuck you. And I'm going to say whatever I want to you and it just doesn't matter because I'm going to leave and you still have to stay here and eat sloppy joes out of a crock pot in the back. Just try not to do
I made a spaghetti casserole. It was pretty delicious.
Oh yeah, man. You got to do what you got to do.
I also really like the shoppers who come in like Christmas Eve when we're out of stock on everything at this point because we haven't been like resupplied in weeks. Come in on Christmas Eve. Well, now I can't get this gift for my kid. I'm like, you waited till Christmas Eve. I don't know.
Yeah, that's on you. It's just not on me.
Blatantly. Because like I said, I've been running the store for 11 years now. I'll blatantly look down at my wrist and just take my time. You know what goddamn day it is?
So, kind of perspective. He's a big dude, though. So, like, you don't want to piss off a 6'3", 280-pound buff man. Sorry, I had to talk up how sexy you are. It's fine.
No, you're fine. The lady that told me that I in the store was a joke was like a little 4'0" spitfire of outrage and Christmas.
Those ones are mean. They'll bite your ankle. They're chihuahuas of humans.
It was insane. It was very insane. All right, Sammy, sorry. Keep going.
It's okay. So I think Black Friday Christmas shoppers kind of conglomerate into one giant mess of evilness when it comes to the gaming community. Because one, Rockstar doesn't put their games on sale ever, and that's my fault.
100% your fault.
It's true. That's a good point. And Nintendo too, assholes.
Yeah.
How dare Nintendo not drop a $30 game down to $10 so your kid can play it for 2 minutes?
Yep.
And then we kind of bring into, I have notes. Kind of we're going to go into the toxic shopper side of things. There's so many different types of toxic shoppers that we've had. And I'm going to speak from my experience as a female, biological female, white in the community. So I have Zelda tattoos. I have a Mass Effect tattoo on my forearm that everybody can blatantly see because I wear a blue polo at my job. And I'm the one that they call over whenever someone has a gaming question. And still to this day, whenever someone asks me a question on gaming or how to troubleshoot something, I have to use my husband as justification for my knowledge. And I cannot tell you how much that pisses me off because they'll just look at me and be like, are you sure? And I'll be like, my husband manages GameStop. They're like, oh, that makes sense. And I'm like, that's fine.
So Bryar and I both worked for this woman, Ashley. She hired me as a SGA, and then later on, we all worked together. And it would drive her crazy because a customer would come in, see her, and either ignore her and come to me or ask her a question. And if they didn't like it, they just come to me and ask me the same question. And I'd be like, yo, that's my boss, man. Like, so if she didn't know, I don't fucking know. Like I'm a PlayStation gamer by, background. So when I started working at GameStop, I didn't know anything about Xbox. I had learned so much in like that first like couple months, just like trial and error, like the different versions and like different compatibilities and the different fucking power bricks. And like, what's the, red light of death mean? Like it was so much information. So like, on a regular basis, Ashley would legitimately know more than I did, but like customers just didn't care. She's a woman. She can't know. There's no way. She's not a real gamer, which is fucking crazy. And so Brian and I have a really good friend, Kelsey. She's right now an assistant store leader in a GameStop as well. And same thing. They just, some reason they just don't care that she's a woman and a gamer because it can't be real. She's only there for sex appeal to get guy gamers in the store, which is weird because guy gamers typically aren't great around women anyway, so it's just
no, they're not.
Very confusing. Very confusing.
No, they're not.
It's very frustrating because I will be explaining and kind of put it in the background. I started on PlayStation. Right now, plugged in, I just turned on, I play PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, PC. I don't really game on my phone because it doesn't appeal to me, but I have played games on my phone. Right. So I'm a really well-rounded, like I will play anything you put in front of me at least once. And I'm talking anything. I have played anywhere from a JRPG all the way into, oh my God, I just brain dead.
Tetris.
I played COD last weekend, but then I switched over to Final Fantasy X. So I'm that weirdo that will play anything. And the fact that I will have someone look at me, and I'm sorry if this offends anybody, look at my chest, look back at me, and then ask for a mail, that then has to come and ask me, like, oh, what cable takes the PS4? It's a non-polarized, you dipshit. Sorry, I could go on forever about this. And it's so frustrating.
For sure.
Once a month, I'll get her calling me like, hey,
Oh, and I'll put
Xbox
on my
does-
customer service princess voice if I have to.
Xbox does X, Y, and Z, right? I'm like, yeah, you just do this. She's like, cool, thank you. And you just hear the customer in the background. Oh.
I think that, like, as gamers and as people, we like helping people that want to be helped. Like, on a regular basis, over the holidays, I've had a bad habit ever since I got out of GameStop is I'll just kind of hang out in, like, the gamer section. And if, like, there's, like, a grandma last year who just had no idea what she was buying. So I kind of just jumped in and, like, I just talked to her, just kind of help her, like, steer her in the right direction. Like, I love that. I love helping people. I like doing tutorials. I like teaching people about gaming. Like, that's what I love about that. The sales part of working retail kind of fucks with that a lot because you have quotas, you have sales goals, you have, so Jett, you have rewards cards and GPGs and PRPs and all that stuff. Those are metrics that matter. Sammy, I have no idea what you have as far as Best Buy metrics for tracking.
More or less the same when it comes to that. I'm not so much tracked by revenue per hour because of my job code, which is nice. So, like, not a commission sales by any stretch, and I can spend like 30 minutes too. I talked with a lady day before yesterday for 2.5 hours about how to get the perfect Xbox setup for her like 10-year-old kid.
Nice.
Her 10-year-old girl who just loves Minecraft. So, like, that's my job and I love it. But then
those things are great. And there are things that kind of come in from outside that make that a little bit friction with trying to push things that maybe they don't even want or don't even ask for or whatever. But that's not what we want ever. So, but even when we do that, we still, we're going to be respectful about it. We're going to ask you if you want something. We're not going to force anything down your throats.
Exactly.
And we're always going to treat you with respect. And there's just not that reverse respect given to the person working behind the cash wrap or the person working on the sales floor. And it's really, really, really unfortunate.
It is. And even to the extent of like what difficulty you play a game on plays a part in it. So we reached out to our community on the Color Me Geeked Facebook page and somebody DM'd me because he didn't want to post this in public. And so I'm going to let him remain anonymous, but thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate it. And he was having a discussion with somebody and I was actually in this group when it happened. So he plays for story first and foremost. He doesn't play a game just to be hard. And he told somebody this, and their instant reaction was to, well, just don't play games then. They're so willing. If you do not fit this perfect box, you shouldn't be playing games. And I don't think that's at all what the gaming community is about.
No.
Is it normal, the setting that the game developers like wanted you to experience? And then if you dial back or dial up, then you're trying to push yourself or back off.
There's a lot of games too that, like, in the difficulty settings, I can't think of one to use as an example right now, which is weird because I know I've played one recently, but like when you go into the difficulty setting, it even tells you like, hey, here's normal if you like a little bit of a challenge, but you're also in the story. And then like I don't even think they use easy mode anymore. I think they refer to it more as like
Witcher 3 was
casual,
really
I think, is what it's called.
Yeah, like Witcher 3 was like story and sword, or it was like brutal mode, or like death march. Like it was trying to warn you. And then like I remember when God of War came out, when it first loaded up, I tried to play Give Me God of War because in my head I'm like, I've been playing God of War since I was a fucking kid. Let's roll. And then I got my ass handed to me. I couldn't play it for 3 minutes without dying, so I had to restart and drop it to normal. And then I played it as the game developers, to me, wanted me to play it on normal. So I guess it just depends. But I don't talk shit to people because they don't want to put it on brutal or hard mode or whatever. Like,
game developers are putting game modes in specific in the description of that game difficulty. It specifically says if you really are just want to enjoy the story. If game developers are putting that in there and you select that, no one has any right to give you any shit for selecting that. The game developer literally gave it to you.
And it's your game. You paid for it. They didn't pay
First and
for
foremost, it's your game. You paid for it. Play it however the hell you want. And then when you also add in the fact game developers built this difficulty just for people like you so you can really immerse into the story, go nuts.
That's what it's for. And I'm literally rocking my favorite T-shirt. That's by the What's Good Games podcast. I don't know if you guys know the ladies over there. If you don't, go check them out.
Yeah,
and it literally says "baby ass baby mode." because that's how I play, because I want the story. And then I'm notorious. I'll go back and replay games. Like, I play PS1 games all the time. It's what I do.
Right on.
And then I'll dial it up the more I get used to a game. But I hate that that these people have a concept that it needs to be the most difficult level, or the difficult, sorry, I can English real good.
Same.
The most difficult level setting possible for them to enjoy it. I'm like, okay, I don't need punch in the face to finish. Like, calm down.
Well, and brutal mode on Marvel's Avengers isn't fun. It takes forever. It's not. I don't have to be better as a gamer. I just have to have the endurance to not quit because it's taking me 5 minutes to fight this one guy, whereas before it'd take me 30 seconds to fight this one guy. I don't
exactly.
To me, that doesn't make me a better gamer. Like, if there is, so you play For Honor and there's skill to that game. Either your timing is down, you can read the other opponent, and like you can do good or not. But like in God of War, you're scaling up the difficulty. In Avengers, you're scaling up the difficulty. And I don't think that's as much about making you a better gamer as much just figuring out what your capacity for just exhaustion and just retrying a game over and over. I have 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old and I have a newborn. No. I'm not going to waste an evening fucking playing the same game over and over and over and over. Like, that's not appealing to me as a gamer at all. At all.
Not when you're so time restrictive. And look at the lashback that even Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy got, because they made him pill shaped. So the game was infinite, or I think they said it was like 20 times harder than the original PS1. And so people ended up trading the game or just not buying it due to the difficulty setting. So it's like, you guys can't have your cake and eat it too here. Like,
but isn't that what made Cuphead so special? Because Cuphead is apparently so ungodly difficult.
It's evil.
There's a difference though between a Cuphead and a Souls game, where this, going into it,
this is real shit.
What it is.
This isn't Mario. This is real shit.
Yeah. First of all, Mario's difficult sometimes.
Sometimes.
going into a Marvel game, like, all right, I want a little bit more of a challenge now. Oh shit, this is kicking my ass. There's a difference. Like, I'm going to play this game and maybe bump it up when I get better or when I learn mechanics, versus you're just getting thrown into the shit.
Yeah.
So to get gatekeeped for a difficulty level is just so asinine when, like you said, that they're not paying our bills. They're not buying us these games. It's our hard-earned money. It's our gifts, or whatever the case may be. Let us enjoy the damn game we want to play.
And who the fuck are you to tell us what to do anyway?
And
exactly.
There are a lot of people out there who don't enjoy getting their ass handed to them over and over again. Like, that's like, I have Dark Souls, rarely play it because I'm not I enjoy the game. I enjoy the story. I enjoy the background info and all that. But like, I'm not here to get my ass handed to me 800 times in a row. Like, I started playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 over again because PlayStation gave the campaign to us for free. And like, the Modern Warfare series and Black Ops 1 and 2 are like my favorite Call of Duties purely for the campaign. I really enjoy the campaign in them. So like, I'm playing Modern Warfare 2. Like, I've played it multiple times. I've beaten it. So like, I'm playing it at a higher difficulty now. And there's been multiple times where like, I just get so pissed off that I stop playing it because I poke my head up and instantly die because a bullet entered my dome. And it's just like, I don't get the people who play it like a jacked up difficulty setting and that's just their first playthrough. I mean, by all means, you do you play however you want, but don't give me shit because I am playing at a lower difficulty because I don't enjoy having my ass handed to me repetitively.
Right. And you have kids too, right? So that
I got one little guy.
See, in that limited time you have, you don't want to spend 4 or 5 evenings doing the same thing repeatedly. That sounds frustrating.
Yeah, it's and it's such a waste of your time. When I would play The Witcher 3, there was a point where
Daddy Geralt.
I was in college and I knew that if I touched that game, I would lose hours of my life without even knowing it. Like, I would blink and then like fucking, oh my God, it's 4 a.m. I need to go to sleep. I need the paper that I was supposed to turn in. I couldn't go near that game, but it wasn't that it was difficult and it was hard for me to beat. It was just so immersive and so amazing, and then it would just draw me in. That's what I want from gaming. What I don't want is just to fucking replay the same area over. Like, I played Bloodborne for like a couple hours, and I can't do this right now. I'm just not in the mood for it. I don't have the right headspace for it, and that was okay. I know a lot of other people were saying, like, as a gamer, I had to go back to Bloodborne. I had to beat it. Like, I had to prove it to myself. Like, I didn't have the time to worry about proving shit to myself. I've been gaming since I was like 5. I'm fine. I'm gonna
I
be
know
okay.
I'm a piece of shit. I don't need to prove anything to myself.
You don't gonna tell me shit I don't know.
And I think that's part of the issue in the community is they assume if like I'm not good at video games. I will be the first one to admit that. That being said, I enjoy them and I love them, and my ability to complete a quest or complete a game within a certain amount of time shouldn't measure whether or not I'm a gamer.
Right, for sure. You said you started playing on the PlayStation 1. You now work in an industry where you're teaching people about video games. You know, behind you, there's a ton of collectibles and stuff. You're into the swag. You're part of the culture. You're into it. You started a podcast called Color Me Geeked. What the fuck more do you need to do to prove that you're into gaming? Like, I
have gaming tattoos all over me. Not that has to do with anything that anybody would ever notice, but I literally have put these stories on my skin permanently.
Yeah.
They have resonated with me.
There is no metric benchmark of what you have to do this to be a gamer. No.
I've named my 3 dogs after video game characters. We have Garrus, Varric, and Moxie.
Nice.
Like, I've literally sacrificed my babies.
What more do you want? All right, Sammy, what else we got on in-person gamer toxicity?
There's a lot. This is a very big one because I feel like specifically women get targeted in this because of that aspect of, well, you're just a sex appeal. And it's like, in video games, yes, like, don't get me wrong, I love me some Triss. I will go for her every single time. But I also
Triss was the right choice. Garrett. Yen was a whore and a piece of shit, and she manipulated Garrett.
Too.
I know, but you went with Yennefer. I don't want to talk about it.
No, I didn't.
Sorry.
Triss.
Anyways, you guys can talk about this off air.
We're going to need marital counseling. It's fine. But and I've gotten some really good stories, and one of them is actually from a female that used to work with him at GameStop, and now she's left the company. And I'm going to kind of read her story off. As a female in a supposedly male-dominated industry, the amount of prejudice and toxicity, either I don't know enough, I can't possibly be good, or I'm just a sex object. I think that encompasses everything we've just talked about. And I think it's really sad, and I'm very frustrated from a standpoint. I have a very thick skin between working retail and playing games. But the fact that I have lost so many female friends in my gaming community because of assholes, and like, I've had one commit suicide. It wasn't gaming related, but it didn't help with the mental health aspect of it. And then 2 of them don't even pick up games anymore. That fucking sucks.
That's a real bummer.
Yeah, and so there's like safe spaces and snowflakes and all that. Like that has nothing to do with the fact that there's not a safe community for women to come and game in. And I get that it's a predominantly male-dominated field, but like if 45% of the gaming community are female, yeah, they're not represented great in games all that much, but still, like, it's on us to make sure that anybody can come and game wherever. Like, my daughter at some point will want to game online. She and I have been playing Tony Hawk's remastered version nonstop. She loves it. And, you know, so she's seen me play online against other people, and she's asked about what it's like. And I have told her on multiple occasions, like, not until you're 16 or 17. I need to make sure that you're together enough to protect yourself and to know where to log off, that when somebody comes at you online, that you know what to do about it. Because I don't feel safe letting my daughter online at all. And that sucks. That's unfortunate. Like, I got to keep her locked to Lego games and, you know, Disney Infinity, because that's the only safe place for her. She loves playing Tony Hawk. She should be able to play Tony Hawk with her friends, but like, it's just not safe for her at all. And that sucks.
And that's really terrifying, considering how vast technology has grown. Like, I've built computers. I'm very tech savvy in that, and it's my job. If you don't have a VPN, they can find your address through your Wi-Fi. That's fucking terrifying. Even as anybody that's ever received death threats, sexual harassment, and I think that hits on the head of mental health in the gaming community, as far as men, women, transgender, you know, whoever you are. They think they get a say in your existence, and that can really eat at you. And it does more harm than good. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked.
No, you're fine.
No, yeah, you're good. It's like the flip side of that too is, you know, with my son and now Devon, since you now have a bouncing baby boy, I think a lot of that too comes to now it's our job to make sure that our little assholes don't grow up to be little assholes.
Little assholes, right?
So like now, in addition to like trying to raise a functioning member of society, I also have to go into like hey man, don't be a dickhead to girls online because they're playing video
Or
games
anybody.
with you. Or,
Yeah,
you know,
just don't
in general.
be a douche online. This what you say matters. What you say impacts
Yeah.
other people negatively.
And it's like stuff you would think you shouldn't have to, you know, teach your kids, but now it's very evident. Like I have to teach my kid not to be an asshole online.
There's a generation of people that were never told don't tell people that you fuck their mom, because now all those people are online and nobody told them not to say that shit. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I have no idea where all these kids came from that have no supervision or, you know,
Right.
any structure to know what to say or what not to
It's
say.
the
or how
same
to,
kids too. And Devon, you and I both have dealt with this. Like when they come in and they're talking their parent into buying them GTA 5, and we have to tell them, like, you know, you can literally have sex with women in first person point of view and all that stuff. And you can buy drugs.
Yeah.
And you can straight up beat someone to death with a
Oh,
pipe.
well, he says he just wants to race with his friends online. I'm sure he
Like, no,
says
no,
that.
no,
But
like,
what he's
no,
going to do is
that's
he's going
not
to
the
go to
case.
the online digital strip club, and he's going to hang out and he's going to make it rain on digital strippers. Like, that's in the game. That's
Like
in the
he's
game
gonna
that
go
you want
pick
to
up
buy
a
for your 8-year-old.
prostitute, do the thing, and then beat her to death to get his money back. Like, and like these kids are all, you can turn that off. Like, first of all, no, you can't. But it's what always blew my mind is the parents like, oh, he's seen worse, or oh, he's used to it. Like, he's 10.
Why?
Like-
Is it bring your kid to work day at the strip club? Because that's not a
Jesus.
normal thing to say he's seen that before.
Or
I had
he's
an
seen
8-year-old.
worse.
So go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah.
I had an 8-year-old. The lady came in, and I read her the riot act for GTA 5. Read her the riot act.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
it's
love her.
okay. He's going to get good grades in school now. Threw the game at her, walked into the back, closed the door, and literally bounced my head off that steel door.
I
Oh,
had a kid go into a full-on and this is just comparing GTA stories here. I had a kid going into a full-on I hate you meltdown in the middle of my store, and it's one of my favorite GameStop stories, and I'm taking this opportunity to tell it because I love it so much.
Yes.
Kid comes in with his grandma. This kid had to have been 10 at most. Comes in with his grandma to buy GTA 5. I'm like, listen, I'll sell you this game, but I have to do a song. Oop, knocked over my pop filter. I have to do a song and dance to tell you about all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll in this game. And the kid instantly comes in with like, oh, you can turn that off. I'm like, no, you can't. He's lying to you. And I'm gonna tell you why. So like I go through the whole thing. I'm like, you can pick up prostitutes. They put first person point of view into the game. You can go to a strip club. You can do this. You can do that. At one point in time, you actually torture a guy. Like you straight up have him tied to a chair. You beat his knees with a pipe wrench. You hook him up to a car battery. You waterboard him. And the kids over here like, you can turn that off. I'm like, no, you can't. That's part of the story.
That's the story.
You have to do that to progress in the story. And this woman's like, I am not buying him this game. Like, that's the right answer. Thank you.
That's the point. That's why we're talking.
Parent of
about
the
that.
year.
This kid goes into the whole, but dad would let me have it. She's like, really? Your father, my son, your
Yeah.
father would let you have this game. He's like, yeah, he said I could have it. She's like, all right, cool, let's call him.
That's why
So
your mom
she's
left
standing
him.
at the front, probably. She's standing at the front of the cash wrap, and she's calling him, and her phone volume's up loud enough that I can hear this guy, right? So she tells him everything I just told him word for word. And I just hear him yell into the phone, dear God, no, do not buy him that game. Yes, good parents, cool. So she hangs up. She's like, I'm sorry, bud. Your dad said no. And this kid loses his fucking mind immediately. Starts stomping around, throwing stuff. I hate you. I hate my dad. I hate you. I hate the store. Like storms to the back of the store and starts standing there crying. And his grandma walks back like, buddy, I'm sorry. Your dad said no. And he's like, I hate him. I hate you. And like runs out of the store. I'm like, you know what, man?
Well,
This is the highlight of my whole GameStop
honestly,
career.
I think that's on Rockstar. And so I was only thinking about that since you were talking about it. The shit that's in the main campaign is stuff that you cannot turn off. It's part of the game. If they were to just release Grand Theft Auto Online separately and let the kids go online and play their online rain tracks and stuff, like you could do that, but they didn't. The only way to play Grand Theft Auto Online is to get the full game, and all that other shit is in there. So what do you want us to do, man? We're not going to raise your kids for you. We're not going to babysit your kids. Don't drop them off and say, yeah, can they just stay here and you can just watch them? No, I'm not. You're not paying me to babysit your kid at all, ever.
I had a woman get real mad at me. I had a woman get
Agreed.
mad at me for not babysitting her kid. She's like, is it okay if he sits and plays this game interactive? I'm like, yeah, that's what it's there for. And then she left. I didn't realize she was leaving. So then the kid was like for their 10 minutes and he left. I didn't stop him because it's not my
It's
job.
not your kid.
to.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to stop kids from leaving the store.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's in the
It'd be
handbook.
kind of creepy if you did.
Yeah.
But he leaves and she comes back. Like he went this way and she went that way. So she comes back. She's like, "Oh, where's my kid?" I'm like, "I don't know. He went that way." She's like, "You were supposed to watch him." I'm like, "No, not my job."
Yeah.
And
This
she
is
got
not daycare.
really mad because I let her kid leave the store. I'm like, "I don't know what you want from me, dude.
Nope.
I'm not a
Oh, man.
babysitter."
All right, Sammy, what else you got?
We touched on GTA because that's probably like my worst customer story, to be honest with you. That's not gaming related. I do have a funny customer story that's not gaming related if you guys want to hear it
Okay.
later on. It's hilarious. Biggest thing is, I think being toxic in the gaming community is first and foremost, parents not understanding ratings. Like, it is rated T for teen and M for mature, 17 and up, for a reason. And maybe we should have a come to Jesus meeting about it. I'm sorry. Maybe we should learn about these.
Yeah, man. Why they are,
don't.
what they matter. And like Jett, I think that you probably on your cash wrap and probably on your wall, I think that we used to have some ESRB kind of explainers.
Everywhere.
This is
Yeah.
what this means. So, we're doing our part to try to educate the parents of like, this is why you shouldn't buy Grand Theft Auto. This is why it's totally fine for you to buy any FIFA game or NBA 2K game. Like, sports games are typically okay. Anything with a gun is
Witcher
probably not
3,
okay.
for example, there's a lot of really nice titties in Witcher 3.
For sure are, Sammy. Sure are.
Just segment into that story.
But no, like, it's, I'm sorry, but like, that's why game ratings are important.
It's true. I don't know if I ever did a good of a job at defending The Witcher 3 as I did Grand Theft Auto, because Grand Theft Auto 5 has just got so much shit into it. But like Witcher 3 has brothels, so it's not.
You put a baby in the fucking oven.
Well, I mean, well, whatever. We didn't make the game.
Your parenting style's your own. It's fine.
Yeah, it's your kids. Do what you want.
YOLO. Your body, your choice. Just kidding. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
So I mean, just having those conversations with the public and with the community, and from a retail standpoint, and we've touched on it a lot as a female in the community, just being treated as a sex object, or my knowledge isn't valid because it didn't come from a man.
Yeah.
Or like the console wars. I have employees that work with me that are all about, they call it the PC master race.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most stupidest fucking thing in the world. I'm sorry.
So it's impressive, like and I've only understood it recently since I'm into video editing and all that. Like it's only been recently that I've understood like modding, your ability to take a whole new set of animations and graphics and tell the game that you're playing, hey, I don't want you to look at what the game told you to use for these. I want you to look at this stuff that I designed and I want you to put that in the game. It's crazy that you see all these Grand Theft Auto mods, that you see the DeLorean in there, and like the Avengers were in there, and Superman's in there, and all this crazy stuff that you can do. It's like fascinating, and you can't really do that on console. So I get how there's some things that you can do on a PC that you can't do anywhere else, but like at the end of the day, you're playing games. Yeah, you can toggle yours up more or mine down more, but like I work in video editing. I have a pretty good gaming or pretty good rig to edit on, but I spend all of my time on my computer. What I don't want to do is finish work and then recreate on my computer. I want to go sit on my couch. I want to go play my console. Like, I want to do that stuff. I've just never really bought into the PC Master Race thing. Like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. Yeah, you can build it to do whatever you want to. And there's a lot of limitations on console modification. But I don't care. I'm a gaming consumer. Like, I'm a console gamer, and that's totally fine for me. It would be cool if they could do more to modify the PlayStation 5, but like if they don't, it's fine. I don't care. Give me the console that's going to run what you want me to run on it, and I'll play that. And then if I want to spec out my PC to do more shit, I can, but I probably won't. It's just never really appealed to me like that.
And to go
But you
along with
spend
that
more
too-
money upkeep. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I think I was going to make the same point you're getting ready to. Is like PC gaming. I don't necessarily want to, it's more expensive, to be honest with you. Like I'm on my second build for my PC. My first one ran me almost $800. And then just, beginning of last year, I think is when you and me and our buddy Cam made a trip to Micro Center to because I had my graphics card was crashing, my motherboard I think died on me, like I had to replace a bunch of shit, and that's another $600-700 I dropped on it. Like you can argue that the consoles themselves are that much too, but in the long run I think it's more expensive to be a PC gamer because you're constantly having to upgrade your computer. Like, again, using Cam as an example, he has an awesome computer, and there for a while we were making regular trips to Micro Center because he wanted this thing because it his ups his frame rate just a little bit, or his response time or his load time or this and that. Like you can get so in depth in that you can fall down that rabbit hole very quickly and end up spending thousands of dollars. So I think PC gaming's great. I used to be huge into it. Like when I before my current job, when I just had a factory job, I primarily played PC games. Like I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 for I can't remember how many years. I think I'm pushing somewhere in the 7-year range. I'm not 100% sure on that. But now that I have a desk job and I'm at a computer all day, like same thing as Devon, like I don't necessarily want to play PC games anymore because I've been on a computer working all day. I want to go sit on my couch. I want to play my console. I just want to zone out and like not be reminded that I also sit here to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And games are optimized a lot of the time for these specific consoles. So I have no problem putting in my disc, updating my console, and that's it. That's all I have to do. Microsoft or Sony does the work for me. But I think our PC bill is going to run somewhere around like $2,500 to $2,800.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate enough to be able to put that money into the PC. I can't stress that enough.
Right. Absolutely.
But that's expensive versus I could buy, let's use the Xbox One X, which is really close to, or Xbox Series X, which is close to a PC for what, $500?
Yeah.
So where is console keeping up with PC, and why is one better than the other, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
I think the whole better thing is it just comes down to all the mods and all the fine details you can do. Like, again, you can buy this particular item for your PC. I'm not going to throw computer part names out because when it comes to the hardware, I'm very illiterate, but
they change it all the time.
Exactly. But like, I can upgrade this, graphics card from this to that. And like realistically on paper, like the difference is pretty minute, but like it helps the graphics just a little bit, just a little much. But like
right?
I just dropped another $500 to get just this little bit extra. And it's just,
that just gave me heartburn.
and it's I think it's really hard to keep up with PC gaming too, because they do put out, they're constantly coming out with new components and new parts and new pieces for your PC. And like if you're trying to stay up to date on everything like that, you're constantly replacing parts in your computer. That shit gets expensive and it's hard to keep up with. Whereas with your console, you just occasionally download a software update and you keep going.
And gaming is for everybody. If you can do that with a PC, do that. I do not have $2,800 to spec out a computer. I just don't. And I was really deciding today, like, do I need to get the disc version of a PlayStation 5 knowing I'm just going to play my PlayStation 4 games on it? And then I even went back further and like, so I'm spending all this money on a new console to play older games. And that's what got me on the track to thinking about the Xbox Series S and like, what's my value really? So like, I'm in the weeds just figuring out from a console spectrum, like what I can do and how much money it's going to cost and like what I'm going to do and all that other stuff. But like, at the end of the day, it's all about gaming. If you can figure out a way to play the games that you want to play with the friends that you want to play them with. I know Bryar's going to be on PC. I now know that Bryar's going to be on PlayStation. I know that Jett's going to be on PlayStation. So I'm going to want to play on PlayStation. I don't want to go invest in another console where people aren't that I don't want to play with because I want to play with the people that I can. So it's something for everybody. You just figure out what works for you and where your community is and then just suit it.
If you've got the time and the funds to get really into PC gaming and that's your passion, by all means, go for it, man. Live your dreams, but don't shit on people because they play a console. And like, I also am very super sick of the PC master race. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Congrats, man. Your computer can hack into the Pentagon. I'm super happy for you. Good luck with
You're
that,
not
though.
smart enough to do that. It's fine.
Yeah.
And you're going to just play Minecraft on it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And
Hey,
to
man,
be
those
honest,
mod
the
texture
only
packs
mod
for
I would want a
Minecraft.
PC.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the only mod I'd want a PC for is so in Resident Evil 2, so I could be hunted by Thomas the Tank Engine. Let's be real.
I saw some screens of that. That shit was horrifying.
That is actually legitimately terrifying.
It's the only reason I want a PC right now.
But then, like I saw, like on The Witcher 3 on the PC version, like they built so you can fast travel from anywhere. You can up-res the grass. You can up-res other stuff. So there's quality of life changes that you can do in a PC game that I would love to have on a PlayStation 4, but there's no mod support at all. And that's a me problem. If I wanted to change it, I can invest in a PC, but I'm just not going to. I just don't have the time.
Real quick.
And every gamer is different. Well, I love The Witcher 3. It's definitely in my top 10 favorite games of all time.
Yeah, man.
I pick it up on the PlayStation, and then I can jump and play it on Switch, and I still enjoy it. And I know it looks like garbage on the Switch, but I don't care.
So you playing the 4 and going to the Switch version, is it comparable at all?
No, I mean, no. It's not good, but I love me some Geralt.
All right, well, at least you're honest about it.
No, I'm still enjoying it. Like, the load screens are significantly longer. But I mean, the Switch is what it is. But I also love the Vita. I have this love for handheld consoles. But I think the Switch, for what it is a fantastic piece of hardware. And I just appreciate that they're giving me my games that I want on this piece of hardware.
Right on.
So I have a question too, because we kind of briefly touched on it. The whole just the graphical difference even between the 5 and the 4, and then PCs versus consoles. I mean, like, is that change in graphics really enough to make any of you like have to go out and buy it?
Not day one.
Because like I was looking at side by side the PS4 and PS5 Spider-Man. Like the video we posted where it's showing that the video that was released showing the side by side difference. Like I don't care. I don't care
it's
that
less about
enough.
graphics. I want my shit to run faster. Like I'm sick of the load screen for The Witcher. I'm sick of the load screen for Avengers. I'm sick of the load screen for Spider-Man. Like, let's fucking go. Like, so Sammy, you were saying earlier, like time is a resource. Time is a thing that is important to me. If I put my daughter down at 8:30, my son is a newborn, so he's not sleeping ever anyway. My evening is very important. So I only have so much time. I don't want to spend most of my gaming experience watching Captain America catch a shield, or watching Kamala Khan have a hand grow big. Like, let's fucking go. And like, to me, that's more important than graphics. That's more important than a huge catalog of games. Like, if I fire up a game, fire up the game. Like, let me go straight to the menu. Let me go straight to the game. Let's get cracking. And that just, I haven't seen really, other than Spider-Man, all that much test footage of what it's like for a game to run on a PlayStation 5, and that shit's starting to freak me out, because the less they say, the more worried I am that I'm not going to get the next gen upgrades that I really want to get this thing. Because graphics, the games look great now. The definitive edition of Mafia looks incredible. These games look amazing. I don't need you to make it look realistic. I don't give a shit. Games look awesome. I need the game to run faster, to look better, to be more responsive, to have the online community work, better, and not have as much networking issues. Like, that's the shit that I need, not as much graphics.
Yeah, like I don't need
Go for it.
I was just gonna say I don't need the perfect reflection in a puddle of water in Spider-Man. It's not gonna improve the quality of the game to me. I don't care about that. Make it run better, make it run harder, better, faster, stronger. And then the graphical upgrades can come later. I don't need those. I don't care about those. The games, like you said, Devon, already look great as is. Make them run better. Put your time into making this game run better and lessening or eliminating load screens versus making it so I can see every individual, piece of hair on Peter Parker's head. Like, I don't give a shit about that at all. Make it run better.
Yeah.
For me, the fidelity increase is nice because I play on a nice 4K TV. But you're right there. The load times and stuff like that, and the boot up speeds. I mean, Series X? They're saying Red Dead goes from 2.5 minutes to a little over a minute load time for Red Dead 2, which is astronomical for a cutoff. Like, it's insane. So that performance alone, like outside of not having any launch titles, because I'm going to buy Spider-Man just to replay it so I have something on the PS5 to play. Other than that, I mean, I'm going to be buying Assassin's Creed and Cyberpunk on the Xbox just to get the upgrades, and that's my holiday season right there. So like the fidelity, they're cool, we're not going to see full advantage of these consoles for 2 years.
Which is a really
tracing.
good point. That's a really good point. So anything in development was in development for the 4 or the Xbox One, and now they're going to port that shit over. So you're going to get it for free because you're not getting true next gen yet. It's going to be until 2020, into 2021, and then mid 2022.
Yeah,
these are the games that were built for the next gen systems, and this is the shit that you've been waiting for. And that's, you know, there's some big game. Not like Harry Potter or wherever the fuck is coming from Portkey, but like there's big capstone games I think we haven't really seen yet exactly what they're going to be doing and when they're going to be coming out, because they're still in early development, because it's probably this whole new sandbox that they're still figuring out.
Yeah.
Right.
But who knows, like you said, the Harry Potter game, Avowed, like whatever Bethesda's doing now for Microsoft.
Elder Scrolls 6, that'll be just a console exclusive for Xbox, and then we'll all just kill ourselves on PlayStation.
I don't think so. I don't think Xbox is going to do that.
Not for 6 and Fallout.
I
don't think so. I think they're too smart. They need to make up money.
Starfield, though, that will be Xbox exclusive.
We'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, those like 2 years. Let's take that 2 years down the road. See what, you know, the game of the year for Cyberpunk looks like. Let's see what ES6 looks like, Starfield looks like, and then we can, you know, look back at like the launch and go, okay, it was an okay launch, but holy shit now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to next gen, but I'm future-proofing myself in the sense of I'm excited for like the new Horizon game that's going to come out. I'm excited for Cyberpunk, absolutely. But as of right now, will I get it day one? Yes, I've already pre-ordered it. Are there games that I need day one? Absolutely not, because I have the Kingdom Hearts 3 PlayStation 4 Pro, and right now, for the tech that's out there right now, that's fine. Loading screens, though, I'm not going to be impressed until we see Pillars of Eternity on it. It needs to be faster.
Right on.
Or Divinity Original Sin 2, that shit takes forever.
Well, and you, when Jett said about Red Dead, like Red Dead is probably my longest load time next to The Witcher.
Yep.
Witcher takes forever, Red Dead takes forever. Avengers takes a bit, but not anywhere near as much as Red Dead. So I'm just, those things are really important to get that dialed in, and, you know, let's get back into gaming for sure.
How spoiled are we, though, that this is our biggest complaint in gaming right now, like our load screens?
For what we're paying for these things, for what we're paying for the games, for what we're paying for the online, you know, PlayStation Plus, Xbox Live, Gold, whatever you guys call it on the Xbox ecosystem.
Xbox Game Pass?
Yeah, Gold.
Yeah, they're getting rid of the
Pass
Gold subscription and just changing it over to the Game Pass.
I think for what we're paying for everything to use these things, the ask to make your things run faster isn't insurmountable. You know, you're giving us online communities, that's great. You're letting us have, you know, you're putting microtransactions so you can make more out of us after we give you the cost of the game. Asking for us to play your game faster seems very reasonable, I think.
Yes and no, because I mean these games hit it, and I'm gonna bring a counterpoint because I completely agree with you. I really do. But we're gonna use The Witcher 3 because that's one of the games that we've talked about that we have in common. I dropped 300 plus hours in my first playthrough, not including the DLC. 300 plus hours. I only paid $60 for this game. So I mean, what I paid for the game versus how many hours I have in it, like when do we do cost versus time? Does that make sense?
So you're giving me a value proposition. I would argue that even now the entire Witcher collection is worth $100.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter when it released. It doesn't matter when you release it again on a remastered version. Like for The Witcher 3, for Heart of Stone, for Blood and Wine, should be $100. And I think, I don't care how long into the future that we go, there's so much value in that game. The only part that takes away from that experience is how fucking long I have to wait listening to a couple minutes of Dandelion tell me a weird sonnet about what happened last time I played, and then still an additional however long of me waiting for it to boot up.
Let me skip Dandelion's voice.
Yeah, if that's what's bogging me down, let's kill that out. You know what?
Like, I don't need that. Give me a quick paragraph real quick. I can read super fast.
It sounds like what Mark Cerny was talking about was that the way that they're building the PlayStation 5 is a way that game developers can use their assets over and over so they don't have to do so much with load times. And so what I'm hoping is that that's the reason why. So these games will run faster, because I think that we do deserve that. Geralt is awesome. Don't make me wait for 5 minutes every time I load up the game to play as Geralt, because like gamers don't have that long of an attention span. And if you go ahead.
So we know the tech's out there, though. Look what Ghost of Tsushima did.
Yeah.
They had to slow the load times down so people could read the tips.
Really?
Yeah, it was that damn fast.
I haven't fucked with Ghost of Tsushima at all. I thought that game was. I've been hearing nothing but like good things about how technical it was and how how much stuff is in that game. So I was expecting really long load times for that one as well. So, but you're saying there's no load times at all?
It's seconds. Like, so you know how like you die on a witch or something like that. You grab your phone while it's loading up.
Yeah.
You literally grab your phone. By the time you have your passcode in, you already booted up and goes.
Huh.
Yeah.
How big are the worlds that you're going into?
It's massive.
So the tech's there.
Yeah, the tech's there. They basically
all our arguments just got thrown out the window.
How Insomniac did that, or not Insomniac.
Do I need to Google? Google
it's the guys that did
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. Yeah.
I love that movie. Oh, sorry, bro.
How they did it is they preloaded like 90% of the data back behind you while you were playing. That way, when you died, it was right there.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so you literally like you die and like, all right, cool. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, so the tech's there. That's what I want. If you're gonna give me a console with no games for it, then you better have solved the problem of load times. And maybe that's why we can't take our saves over, because everything on these new systems is built differently, runs differently, and it just won't understand whatever old antiquated save files we have, because it's got this new save structure that's working so much better. I don't know. We'll see.
You know what I'd like to see too is something that the PSP and the Xbox One do. It's when I use Assassin's Creed, for instance. Whenever I'm playing Assassin's Creed on my Xbox, when I shut my system off, if I come back to it within like a day or two and turn it on, it just picks up from that exact same spot. Like it still takes me to the Xbox home screen, but as soon as I choose Assassin's Creed, it's immediately right to that same spot. I just keep playing from where I left off. I don't have to go back to like the main menu of the game and reload and do all that bullshit. It's just like you jump in and you keep going. Granted, it only works, it only holds that for so long, and it's also because I keep my Xbox in the like
rest
the
position,
like the always on thing.
Oh, you brave.
But like outside of like a couple days, it'll close it out, and then I have to go through it. But like it'd be cool to see more consoles really get into that. That would also help with your load times too.
That's why I'm excited for the rapid switch for Xbox Series X.
What's that do for?
So you can, I think they set up to 5 games. So playing State of Decay, I boot in, I start playing Gears. I want to go back to State of Decay. Instantly will take me back.
Oh, sick! That's
So
right
it's
to
like
where I'm at.
tabs open on a computer?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
cool.
okay.
Neat.
Is it only on the Series X, or would that be on the Series S as well?
I'm sure it'll probably be on the S too.
Cool. That's good.
Because,
Maybe not as many open as once, but
I still
I mean, I would hope so. It's there.
I'm gonna get the Xbox because I mean Xbox. Even though I play PlayStation more, Xbox still is my series, is my brand. But I can't justify the Series X when like I have no one to play online with, and I'm only doing it for a handful of games.
Which is fair.
I think I only boot up my Xbox for co-op games with him specifically now because I don't play online. I can't. It's terrible.
Which is unfortunate. Yeah.
Pretty much only use my Xbox for Halo and Gears, and then I started playing Assassin's Creed is my favorite series. I have all the games. I have so many collectibles. It's stupid, but I'm still gonna get Valhalla on Xbox just because I'm not gonna switch consoles. God damn it, this pop filter! I'm not gonna switch consoles now. I'm gonna keep going there, but.
I've never beat a Gears of War. I've never played a Gears of War. I've never played Halo, and I've never beat Assassin's Creed.
That's why I want them to give Game Pass to the PlayStation 5 or 4 so I can play the Halo games. I can play Gears. I can play, Rise Under Rome.
It's
like,
a Microsoft
I'm all for supporting the Microsoft games. I know, but like, let Sony get a piece, let Microsoft get a piece. Like, I'll give you my money. I just don't want your whole fucking console to do it, Like, that's me
it's so
being
integrated
cheap.
too into like it's a Microsoft thing, so it's so integrated into the Xbox and the PC combo. I don't see them ever.
They're smart. They'll figure it out. I don't care.
They're not
going
to
to
shoehorn a
Get
PS4
Ultimate on your PC.
Oh, yeah, that's
worth
right.
it.
You can do it on your PC. I probably could run it. I just...
To be fair, I've told him he can get the Game Pass on his PC like a million times. He
I
just
played
refuses to.
Wasteland 3 on my tablet the other day.
Do you
At work.
like sync it with a controller?
Yep. Bluetooth
Nice.
it up to the controller, play it. I played Halo 3 in the early alpha online.
Mostly as long as I don't have to use my mouse and keyboard. That's all I care about. Just let me use a
That's
controller.
the worst.
I don't like. I know people are all about it when they are, but I wasn't raised that way. I was raised better. I was raised properly.
I went to public school. My brain can't do that.
Maybe that's my problem too. I went to a state college, nothing fancy like Harvard. So we'll see.
There we go. That's our problem. Damn education.
I don't know, man. Counterpoint. I think there are certain games you have to use your mouse and keyboard.
Okay, I think we've been on in-person Gamer Toxicity for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's my bad. But no, that wraps it up for me, though.
Okay, cool. Well, that's great. So why don't we move on to toxicity in the online gaming space? It's only gotten worse since I was a kid. I remember very early playing on, like, Need for Speed Underground was the first game I played online when I was racing against other people on the PlayStation 2. Like, that was a huge deal for me, but you couldn't talk to each other. It wasn't until much, much later that you started to talk to each other online, and that's where apparently all my dads started playing online with me, which was pretty cool. So, Bryar, you're going to take this one, kick it off. You're going to talk about the toxicity in gaming online in the beginning, in the early days, and then I'm going to talk about more of some experiences from today. So why don't you go ahead and take the floor, sir?
So I'm just going to reference the 360 because, I mean, was my introduction to gaming online was Xbox 360. But I mean, back then, the joke we've got going of I was playing with all of my dads. Like, everyone was apparently banging my mom because that's just the whole thing. It's like, I banged your mom. I'm like, all right.
Good for you. She's a hoe.
Proud of you. Take a number.
But it's just like, that's everyone. It was people constantly banging your mom. It was people constantly telling you to go kill yourself. It was people constantly, especially if you were female, but like guys and girls both were being told to go make someone else a sandwich. It was significantly worse if you were a girl.
You were a mouth breather too.
And then you also had a bunch of people who thought they were real cool to play their music ungodly loud behind them, so like you can't hear anything because it's just
they're like eating nachos, or they're eating just a whole head of lettuce or some shit. It's crazy.
You're constantly yelling at people to turn your mic off because like their mom's beating their little brother in the background, and like him screaming is getting real annoying. You're getting a headache. But the early days of it, you had to have thick skin to play the early days of online multiplayer, because like that was also the people's first experience into it. Like, okay, now we're online, and now I'm anonymous online, because back then too, like you had a little bit more, you were a little more anonymous then than you are now, and you could just say whatever you wanted to whoever you wanted, and no one could do anything about it. Like, sure, they could report you, but nothing's going to come of that outside of like maybe a few day ban, and you're going to be right back at it again. Well,
and I think in the early days of like PlayStation 3 is really where I started to experience the early online gaming community, and like Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2, and then Battlefield 3. Like Battlefield 3 is probably the shooter that I have the most hours sunk into, but like that online gaming community was just atrocious. Yeah. You get on there and like you would have a couple good players, and maybe you kind of sync up and join like fire teams or whatever. But then everybody else was just so vile in the way that they would talk to you, and the fact that you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing. And then when there's a point where whoever made Battlefield, I can't remember off the top of my head right now. DICE decided that they were going to do those like noob catch-up patches where you could pay money to level your guy up all the way to somebody who, like us, who had been playing like day one. And so then you get those people who have money now, and they have better gear than you, even though you've been playing longer for them, and they're talking so much shit to you and just really ruining the game experience. Like, come on, man, we're doing capture the flag in a video game. What is your problem? Like, why are you so angry and racist and misogynistic? Like,
everyone was so racist.
What is the problem? Like, I don't understand why you're getting this upset over the video game. I think that was my big thing in the beginning, was just being constantly disappointed in how terrible everybody was.
I remember back in Halo 3 days, there was in my early online multiplayer days, I actually was playing on like friends' consoles because I didn't have a 360 at this point in time. And at some point in time, between like the last time I played and the time I'm playing now, there was a handful of new maps put out for multiplayer in Halo. And I remember one, it was on a hill, right? So you had one team at the bottom, one team at the top. Team at the top had a underground bunker that they can go into, and there was, at this one section of the bunker, there was a long ass hallway that led damn near straight to the base for whoever's on the bottom of the hill. The only way to open the door there, though, was from up here in the bunker. So, like, ideally, the lower team tried to make their way up, get in the bunker, open the door, so they can just have that quick route in. I'd never played on this map before. I'm just walking past this control panel. I get prompted to open the door. I'm like, sure, what the hell is this? I hit the button. And all of a sudden, the entire team rains in. And, like, essentially, I just screwed us. But I had no idea. I'd never been in this map before. This is the first time. And, like, one guy saw me do it on my team and spent the entire rest of the match telling me how much of a piece of shit I was and why I should just go hang myself. Like, dude, it is a game.
Classic.
Calm down. I didn't know.
Rainbow Six Siege was pretty bad about that too, because it's like anything with like a really small, tight team has like the most ridiculous. And like if you jump into a match with 2 or 3 other people that know each other, like you're on your own, man. Like there's no support for you. Like one of the guys that on that Facebook thing that I read, you got to like know how to talk shit if you're gonna play online. Like you got to have thick skin. You got to come correct because those people are just ruthless to you.
And the early advanced warfighters were the same way too. That era, just like, oof.
Dude, early Call of Duty in general.
Yep.
Yeah, early Call of Duty and early Halo were some of the worst. And again, it was all kids who still have that high-pitched cracking voice, and they're like 10, 12 years old tops telling you, first of all, just throwing some of like the worst racial slurs I don't even hear grown adults saying half the things these kids are saying.
Yeah, I think
and the only reason they're saying it is because their mom's in their room and can't hear them.
There's an ESRB rating for a reason, because a lot of people decided that like kids can't handle this shit. They can't handle losing at it. They can't handle playing it. They can't handle talking about it. But then parents just don't care about the games anyway, and then we have to deal with all that bullshit online. So not that it's just young kids, but I think predominantly the issue is probably with the younger generation of gamers, I think.
And to go along with that, it's the parents who aren't monitoring what their kids are doing online.
Yeah,
like I'm not saying breathe down your kid's neck 24/7, but every once in a while, maybe just take a quick peek, pop in for a little bit, kind of see what they're doing. Just keep tabs on what your kid's doing.
It's a twofold issue too, because as we're getting older, and we were kids, we were kids when we were playing this. Let's face it, that was 10+ years ago.
Speak for years. I was a teenager.
I mean, technically, I was a young adult, but we were still kids. It's a twofold issue too, and I've seen it working in retail like that. A lot of these parents nowadays, they're getting younger, and they're letting these consoles raise their kids to a certain extent. So you get that mentality out there where these kids get to do that because they may have seen their parents do that, or the opposite hand, the side of that coin is they're doing that because their parents have not taught them like what these words actually mean. Like, yeah, you could say it sound cool to your friends, but you start dropping some of these slurs in 2020 that have shown to affect like people across the spectrum, and then anonymity's there. Like, it's just a shit show because like these consoles were not designed to raise your kids.
That's a really good point about like watching your parent do something and then you and monkey see monkey do is a big part of parenting. So making sure that I'm very specific on manners in my household, how we treat people, how we treat staff if we're at a restaurant, how we talk to people, how we open doors and stuff like that. That's very important to me to relate to my family. Now, if my daughter was watching me lose my shits because I'm trying to play Avengers and somebody's not pulling their weight, that's on me as a dad because my daughter saw me do that because, oh, well, daddy did it. Why wouldn't I do that as well? That shit's on me. I think that's a really, really good point because whereas my gaming dungeon is in the basement, Bryar's in the Mantic, you guys are in an attic as well. There's some separation there between where your kid primarily is versus where the game is. I think a lot of households probably have the gaming system in the living room and they're playing, when the kids are awake and doing homework, whatever. And there's a lot of that shit that's just transferred even without them really knowing. And then you have a kid who's now emboldened, like, I just heard my dad fucking destroy this person online. Let's get into Grand Theft Auto 5 because I have it. And let's see if we can just see how that works.
I learned some new words. Let's get online.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I remember being a kid and practicing swear words. I would round the corner of the block and then I remember saying like, fucking goddamn it for the first time because I'd heard it and I wanted to try it. Those are new, big, powerful words. Let's take them for a spin.
I just witnessed
we're building
two kids
that
doing
online.
that.
What?
Using new words that they just learned. So like, again, I work from home now too. So my work desk and my gaming desk are the same. And I have a window right here that I can see out into the street on. Thursday or Friday. I can't remember which one. Right after school let out, I live like 2 blocks away from an elementary school. 3 kids rode by on their bikes And you can tell they just learned how to swear because they are sprinkling fuck into their sentence a ridiculous amount of times.
Yes.
Like I watched one kid, I heard one kid yell at his other one. Is I don't even remember how it went. It was just effing this, effing that, you MF-er, effing. I'm like, whoa, slow down there, sport. I understand you just learned this word, but you're it's a little overkill.
Let it breathe, man. Let it breathe.
Let it breathe.
Just pepper it in just a little bit. Lightly season your sentences.
And I think that's part of the problem too, is like kids learn these words and like now they have an online space where they can say these words and they can sound cool because I don't know, mom and dad sound pretty cool when they say it. So like,
it's a good point.
Like my kid's 2.5, almost 3. So like we're really having to watch what we say around him because he repeats everything. So it's constantly censoring yourself because, kids grow up younger, hearing these fancy words, as I'm going to call them. It's just.
We raised our niece from 1 to about 7. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. I'm surprised she didn't learn some stuff from me.
Well, she did. But it's just, it amazed me because we had to start making better choices, even to the extent of what games we were playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
When she was in the house, like human on human violence or action of any sort, we had to start being more aware of that because even though she was living upstairs with grandma at the time, we were downstairs. A quick bypass of even just a little clip of audio is so formative during those years, and it's terrifying what we're considering normal in video games, movies, books. And I'm not saying like don't teach your kids this. Have conversations about it. That's where these issues, in my opinion, we're going to get to this at the end, but that's where these issues come from, is because we're not having open dialogue about it.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, don't say
and
that.
Like and awareness. Like I think Bryar said it, or one of you guys has said about like just being on top of like what your kid is doing. When the beta was out for Marvel Avengers, I let my 6-year-old, so you play through 8A and at the end of it, you fight Taskmaster as Black Widow. I had to go do something upstairs. So I just left the controller on the couch and my daughter's like, can I play? I'm like, absolutely. So my daughter ended up beating Taskmaster at the end of the beta. After that, she started having nightmares about Taskmaster because I never put it together that, here's this guy and he's got this dorky cape and he's got this stupid ass mask and I'm going to beat the shit out of him because he's trying to be like Captain America and all these other people. In my head, there's nothing scary about this animated character. To my daughter, who had never seen a villain like that before and knows that Black Widow is just trying to stop him, that was really maybe not traumatic, but like enough of an impact to where it gave her nightmares for a couple of days. And so she's not allowed to watch me play that game anymore. That's a thing that I had to learn. Lego, Infinity, Lego Incredibles, Lego Harry Potter, Disney Infinity, all those things, like those are safe games for her little 6-year-old brain because she's not mature enough to handle the heavier shit. And I think it was really a lesson for me to just really up my awareness of like, all right, just because it's nothing to you doesn't mean it's not nothing to her. Let's really pay attention to what we're doing. What are these games like? What's in these? What are they talking about? Because it's not worth it to have her not sleep well and wake up the next morning and say, Daddy, I had another nightmare. Like that's a shitty feeling as a dad. And I don't want to have that experience again. That's on me.
So I got two things real quick. I'm sorry on that. One, I remember when you told me about how she beat Taskmaster and I just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. 2, to go along with that, like it's nothing to us, but it's something to them. So my kids rarely ever allowed up here. It's only for like very specific things and very infrequently. There was one time he came upstairs. He just woke up from his nap, and I was trying to wrap something up I was doing on the game. So my wife went down to get him, and she brought him upstairs because he wanted to come upstairs where Daddy is. So he's sitting on the couch next to me, and I'm playing Assassin's Creed. And I was in a mission where I had to sink a handful of other enemy ships. And he's watching me just sail around, and he's loving it. And at one point, like I gave him the controller just so he could sail my ship around and whatnot. But then I had to take these out, and like at one point I without thinking, boarded an enemy ship and just started cutting guys down. And like he kind of was like, what? So, like my wife then started to explain to him, and then like it clicked to me like, shit, he's watching me straight up cut a dude.
Yeah,
so, like,
murdering
had to pause
guy
it.
after guy.
And again, he's 2, but I now have to have a conversation with my son about how, first of all, it's not real. It's a game. Second of all, we don't actually do this in real life. This is a big no-no. Like it was nothing to me because I understand with my adult brain, loosely referring to it as an adult brain, I understand that this is just a video game and this does not reflect real life, or at least it should not reflect real life. But to him, he doesn't understand it. He just sees something happening, and now I have to have this not fun conversation because it's something to him.
Yeah. hardcore, man.
And their brains are, and I think children's brains are actually some of the coolest thought processes ever, because what is fiction is reality and what is reality is fiction to them. They can't tell between the two. So they get to experience games in a richer way that we do, but at the same time, it's a lot more detrimental than what we do.
Absolutely.
But then again, I don't have kids. I'm not a psychologist. This is just from
it's your experience. You know, the games that they're playing look more realistic. The things that are happening, the sounds that they're hearing, the squish of somebody who's stabbing somebody else, like that shit is so. A team of sound engineers are focusing on making that as visceral as possible because they want you to be immersed as an adult gamer who's able to handle it. And then you put that headset on a kid and they're just not ready for that shit. It's just crazy.
Yeah. It's that same gap from when we were playing Mario as kids to the first time we ripped somebody's spine out in Mortal Kombat.
Exactly. I was literally going to say that. So you see Mario fall into that little gap, and that's one thing. You jump off of Yoshi plummets to his death, and you don't give it another thought because you needed to clear the gap. But then you see fucking Goro uppercut somebody's head off, and then you hold the spine proudly above your head. You're like, what the fuck is this game? It's a completely different experience as a gamer.
I have to say, my first experience with the terrifying aspect of games was I was way too young and my dad didn't read labels, go figure, and it was Resident Evil Code Veronica, and I couldn't get past the opening scene because it fucked me up. Like, just that guy's changing into a zombie while he's driving a truck. And my little, I think I was like 8 at the time, my little 8-year-old brain couldn't figure it out. Like, that's not real. I
was like 6 and I saw my brother playing Ninja Gaiden on like NES. And there was something about the color palette of it and the songs that they were using that it was a scary game to me. And then you grow up and you look at the graphics, you're like, what the fuck? But like as a kid, there was just something about it that just really kind of creeped me out, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But like, there's no way that Ninja Gaiden was like built for a kid to play. Like, there's no way. Like, that was more for an adult audience. It just had lower 60-bit graphics or whatever. But
we're seeing more and more kids jump into these games that are way too mature for their brains. And that's where I think and sometimes I wonder if some of these adults didn't never grow up past 12 years old with the comments I've gotten. Yeah. It's like, how much of that is because they didn't have to? They're stunted in the way they talked with their buddies.
Right. And everybody else is constantly talking about that. So all the women that are like, send me nudes, or do you want me to rate your boobs or whatever? Like, how fucking old are you? And like, what if that person is in his 20s and like legitimately they just grew up constantly trying to rate and get nudes from people online. So that's just what they think gaming is. It's nothing other than that. Like, that's crazy and unfortunate. So
I fully believe that no one leaves the high school mentality. So pretty much.
You are not wrong on that. You aren't, especially when you get into like small town aspects of it. And I'm not saying this as like as a statistic, but like in the position I was put in as a kid, I had to grow up very quickly. I was on my own at 15. So I already had, like, not to toot my own horn, but I had the mentality of a 25-year-old by the time I was 15 because I had to, versus I see other people my age and they're still stuck in like that 13, 14 mentality, and they get to be that way. And it's like, no, you need to grow up, guys.
Yeah, man. Gaming can be a great thing, but can also be a terrible thing. Yeah. Just depends on how it's handled.
It's helped me grow as a person in more ways than one, just in opening up the dialogues of race, transgender. I mean, look at what The Last of Us Part 2 has done alone for opening up dialogues.
Oh, yeah. So many conversations based around that game, good, bad, or otherwise, but like conversations that never would have happened if that game didn't exist. And that's a good thing, because that was a game that was a benchmark that helped push it forward, and like that's a good thing. Yep. So let's zoom forward. So we were talking about gaming in the old days, 360, PlayStation 3 back in the day, and then let's kind of zoom forward to today. So PlayStation 4, Xbox One, the Switch, and beyond. How has the gaming culture evolved from what it was to what it is versus where we think it's going to be going in the future? Right now, like playing games like Rocket League, like I said earlier, games like the Avengers, that culture, that mentality is still there. There's still, it's you do something wrong, and instead of just saying, hey, I don't know if you know what you're doing, or can I help you do what's right to bring you up, it's, you know what, let me flame you and let me push you down. To me, even right now in the gaming hemisphere, that is as prevalent as it's ever been. What do you guys think about that, as far as what you've seen, what you've heard as far as gaming today?
It hasn't changed. On one hand, like it hasn't changed. On the other, it's gotten more. Don't want to say necessarily vulgar, but it's gotten maybe more personal. And maybe it's been the last few years with the spotlight being shown on the fact that it is not. I hate to say it, but it's not white America anymore. It is the United States. We've got everybody under the sun living in this place. And we've been shown that we need to grow up. And the mentality of we just want it to stay the same, including our video games, is keeping us so stuck in the past and some of that aspect of it that until we get some kind of system set up where we're going to hold these people accountable, because it's not, let's face it, it's not the majority of gamers by any stretch of the imagination. Right. It is just a very vocal minority.
Right.
And until we get something to either teach them and educate them that the world doesn't need to revolve around them, and that what they do typing away at their screens or on their phones, they may not necessarily think it is hurting somebody, but it will. Like, there's another person on the other end of that.
Yeah.
And until we get some way to do that, I don't necessarily know if it's going to change. I hope it does, but I just don't know if it can until we as gamers stand up enough and say, hey, look, you guys need to go sit in the fucking corner until we can deal with you.
And I agree. I think, we'll get into this in the fix it section, but like, if I'm with a person on Rocket League and they're just being an asshole, I'll just write toxic, and I'll just write that one word. That's all I'll say the entire time. What I've noticed is if I say that, usually it'll dial the other person back, or it'll trigger that person. They'll go nuts. There is no in between. It's either like they'll completely back off being whatever. Sometimes they'll even apologize, and then other times they'll just go fucking balls to the wall, and it's just insane. But it's interesting because, like you had said, like it's becoming more specific. So like now, the last time I got into it with a person online in Rocket League again, they had called me an inward virgin over and over and over. And I'm like, I'm a white guy and I have 2 kids. What the fuck are you talking about? But they couldn't get off of that. That was it. No matter what happened each time, like Rocket League is a 5-minute match, but it can take, 10 minutes depending on stops and stuff like that. But throughout the entirety of that match, over and over, like inward version, over and over and over again. I'm like, what happened to you that's your thing? That's the only thing that you can hone in on. And there is no logic to it. There was no sense of it. There was no accuracy to it. I'm just sitting there just confused and reading over and over as this guy just flips out. And it was really frustrating. It had nothing to do with the game of just us playing Rocket League. And so, like we were saying before, it hasn't got better. I don't know that it's gotten worse, but it's definitely gotten a lot more specific about the people. And maybe it's like, economy of words. Before, you could just say, hey, you suck, and that was bad. Now, you listen to the radio, what's played on the radio today is not at all what was played on the radio back in the late 80s, early 90s, early 2000s. And maybe the dialogue online is following suit. The more they hear online, the more they feel comfortable saying online. The more they see in the real world, the more they feel comfortable saying shit like that in the real world. And maybe it's just an unnatural evolution of this toxicity in gaming.
Yeah, I would say too, I think a lot of it does still stem from like what games you are playing. Is there a specific online community? So I took a break from Final Fantasy 14 for a while, and now I'm getting back into it. And like I've had a pretty even split between like toxic players and actually like legit helpful players in that one. And I think honestly that's one of the few games I've had an even split versus, just everyone wants to tell you what a piece of shit you are and why you should kill yourself. Whereas like, don't get me wrong, like, so I in that game I main a healer. So like if I screw up, I can cause the entire party to wipe very easily. I've done it intentionally and on accident multiple times. But like, the game's pretty good too. Like if you're going into a dungeon for the first time, it'll throw that in the chat when it starts. Like, hey, it doesn't tell you who it is, but it just tells you there's a first timer in your group.
Oh, nice.
And that does give you the opportunity, like, hey, does anyone need this explained to you? Do you need help, etc.?
So I would appreciate that, because a big part of me and Bryar's gaming experience is Bryar teaching me what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing, because I just don't pay attention. Half the time I'm zoned out. I'm not really reading. There's a lot of dialogue and I'm just on my phone or whatever. And so same thing about load screens. I bought this game to play, not to listen to a ton of exposition and all this other shit, whatever. So like, that would be helpful for me to have a little icon that said, hey, this is a first timer. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. I'd be okay with that. That wouldn't offend me.
And a lot of times, like if I'm first time in there, a lot of times too, I'll even ask someone like, hey, can anyone give me a very quick rundown just so I, know what I'm doing real quick? And a lot of times people are like, yeah, no problem. And they'll sit there for a couple minutes and type it all out for you real quick. Like, hey, at this point, we're going to do this. At this boss fight, you need to watch out for this, et cetera, et cetera. And then sometimes you just people who won't talk to you at all. Like you'll ask, like, hey, is there anything I need to know for this? They'll just ignore you and run straight in. And then they get super mad when you guys wipe. Like, well, I asked for help. You non-verbally told me to go fuck myself. So here we are.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say in that game, and again, like I'm sure I'm a very limited, I don't know how I want to word it. I'm sure I'm just looking at like a very small percentage of the people playing that game. But for the most part, like to me anyways, it seems like that's one of the ones that like if you ask for help, people are more willing to help you in that one. Just from my personal experience. But then at the same time, like you can ask for help till you're blue in the face. People still flame you for screwing up the smallest detail. Like last night, now that I get back into it, I have a lot of stuff I need to get caught up on. And one of them was I needed to clear one of the new 24-man raids. So it's 3 teams of 8 people. And if one team screws up, it can screw it up for everyone else. So my buddy Bob was playing with me, and he was trying to walk me through it. But like he had been a while since he'd done this one, so he messed up a couple of calls. I died a lot. But the rest of my group kind of picked up the slack and like helped me through, and it was great. Cool. But at the same time, they could have easily just verbally destroyed me and told me why all the reasons I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. So which there are so many.
There are full multi-volume encyclopedia versions of why I am a piece of shit. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, all that to say, I do think a lot of the online toxicity in gaming is still very much there. It is still very prevalent, but I do think it falls into a lot of game-specific sections. Like Call of Duty, there's always going to be people telling you why you are the worst person in the world, why you should kill yourself. And a lot of MMOs and all that stuff, same thing, but there are the handful of games out there where the community is at least not a bunch of assholes. They are more willing to help you out and not treat you like shit. It's just hard to find them.
Yeah. What about you, Jett and Sammy?
So I've been very fortunate. My first experience with online gaming was either Diablo 3 or Destiny.
Diablo 3 is like the game I would sell to couples when they wanted to play something together. I was like, you need to get either Diablo 3 or like a Lego game or like Rayman, and you guys have yourself.
Lego games are life.
Yeah, man.
I love Lego games. But those communities are very based around, because like the people that are playing with you have these communities that are they're not toxic in the sense of like, yeah, you're going to get mad at your team players. Like that's just a thing. And you're going to talk smack. But I've been very, very spoiled in the sense of I've never hopped on like the original CODs because I don't want to be treated that way. Nor do they want to hear what I have to say because I will come unglued. It's a problem. So I've always made sure that I've joined communities that are not necessarily positive, but at least are productive.
Yeah, so the lady earlier, Ray, she was talking about how she'd shared off some cosplay and she was just trying to be cool, whatever, and everybody started going nuts on her. She'd been toying with the idea of just starting her own female-only gaming community, not because she's trying to isolate boys, but because she's just so sick of constantly dealing with men and boys and shit like that in general, which I totally understood. And like I told him, like, hey man, it's only like 11:45 on a Saturday night. Grab you a drink and get after it. Like, go make it. Like,
do it.
Make your safe spot.
We need more of it.
Absolutely. And if that's where you can go and you can actually be a gamer and be treated as a gamer and not have to worry about all the other bullshit that guys unfortunately bring to the table, like, then go for that. That it sucks that has to happen, but you can do that. What I wonder is if they're going to do more interfacing like that on the PlayStation 5, where if you're a female or if you're a young person, maybe you can kind of safely get into these other ecosystems with people and then play games together. So you don't have to be shoved into, Warzone with a bunch of other assholes that are 13 to 25 and have no censor and are just completely ridiculous, just to help kind of keep people safer from that.
What they would be cool to see too is again, I'm going to reference Final Fantasy 14 is they have a blacklist on there, which is that anytime you're playing with someone who's like hella toxic, or you get a lot of people create bots to spam a way to sell the in-game currency. It's a whole thing. It's super annoying, but you can right-click that person's username and add them to your blacklist. So you don't see them, you don't hear from them. They're dead
awesome.
to you.
I love that.
Mine's full.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
I need that in my real life.
Yeah.
Mine on Final Fantasy is full, and it's a pretty even split between people who are just so painfully toxic that I never want to be in a dungeon or never want to see them again. I never want to be in a position where I have to play a game with them again. And then also the bots who are just spamming you to buy the in-game currency. But like even having something like that more commonly put into games would be super helpful. And then like to follow up with that, game developers and everything, maybe keep an eye. So like, okay, let's say, Devon's being an asshole and I add him to my blacklist. Maybe there's like a flag on his account. Don't act like that. You're a dick. But maybe like his account gets flagged on, the developer's end. So it's just something they see. Nice. Smart move. But, and like if this person is constantly being flagged for this and is like, on 100 different people's blacklist, maybe they look into it. Maybe that's how they start to target toxic players. Like, hey, everyone said you're a piece of shit. Maybe that person gets watched a little bit more closely.
Can we agree that game developers are more keen on going after cheaters than toxic gamers?
100%.
Yes.
And maybe that's a huge fucking thing that I just kind of thought of, because I don't even remember what game it was. I think it was some Call of Duty maybe. They just talked about some crazy amount of gamers that were just banned for cheating in whatever game that was. And I remember thinking like, all right, so they've got metrics in place to talk about cheaters and stuff, but like as far as the toxic people who are treating the other gamers like garbage, it just doesn't seem to be as big of an issue.
I can't remember what game it is too, but they have something set up where if you're being reported as cheating or you get caught cheating, they will actually restrict you to basically a cheaters only server. So now you're just playing with other people who are cheating,
which is a great idea.
Separate you from the general population.
There's been,
awesome.
I think Siege did it.
No,
There's been a few of the major new ones that have come out that have done it. Fall Guys did it for a while.
Oh, I love
something
Fall
like that.
Guys.
Yeah, Fall Guys it's
a good time.
That's all toxic gamers, man. Just fucking bunch of
It's just me constantly holding Devon so he can't do anything.
Yeah, so you can't.
But do something like that for toxic players too. If people keep getting flagged as toxic,
yeah, put them in there.
Toxic
Have your own toxic community. I love that.
Yeah,
That's great.
That'd be a good one.
That way
Because
too.
they obviously thrive off of it.
Yeah, so now they can still play your game, so you're still getting the money out of them, but now they're not interacting with the people who just want to chill after work and play a game. They're not looking to have someone tell them to go blow their brains out because they didn't contribute as well as you thought they should have to the match.
So what about you, Jett, before we move on to the how do we fix it section? Recently, the last couple of games that you played, how's the online culture look? Is it as toxic as it was back in the old days? Has it gotten any better for you?
Oh, it's definitely as toxic. Like I said, I think it's gotten more narrowed down. Like you said, like it used to be, you'd call them, I don't know how PG you want to keep this, but you drop cocksucker and stuff like that. You go to town. Like it's not necessarily hurting anybody's feelings, but you're getting your point across.
Right.
And now you start dropping racial obscenities. You start telling them to kill themselves.
That you're going to come and kill
harassing.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, or to kill them. And that's where that line gets crossed. And it's unfortunate. Like even me, like I've played most of these CODs online since they've come out. Like I have to do private chat anymore, or like a party chat, just because like I know that at least if my buddy says, hey, you fucked up, it's a constructive criticism at least. Like,
right.
Yeah, they may be writing me about it, but at least I'm not going to hear go fuck off and die afterwards. Like,
and like PlayStation, the party chat is so much cleaner and louder than the in-game chat engine anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll have a better audio experience and talk to the people that I know if I use party chat. If I go into in-game chat, it won't sound as good, and all these assholes are there. So why?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Does and this may be a stupid question, but do you think it boils down to like the game and the toxic community? Because we keep going back to COD. So like, is COD like the breeding ground for the toxic community then?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think
so.
there's a lot of them on COD, but there's a lot of them on Final Fantasy. There's a lot of them on Rocket League. There's a lot of them, I'm sure, on Fall Guys and shit. I mean, I think toxicity is kind of an innate issue with the gaming space in general. But I think you might have bigger pockets on like the Grand Theft Autos and the Call of Duties and stuff, because there's like free to play, like Fortnite. I don't really fuck with, but I would imagine it's probably a wasteland of toxicity because it's free. Kids don't have to pay for that. They can jump right in.
And they used to be able to download it on their phones, and it was super easy.
Right. And so, you know, Fall Guys was free for PlayStation Plus users, so I'm sure there's a bunch of people that have that for that reason. I got Rocket League when it was a PlayStation Plus exclusive years ago. And so, you know, you have, I think, these little pockets of people who just kind of jump in for free, and then they're monsters. But then I think you also have the competitive space of people that can't handle competition or don't understand sports ethics or good sportsmanship, that just don't understand what it's like to just lose and just say, hey, man, that was a great match. You guys kicked our asses and it sucked that we got stomped, but like, there's never that. It just, it doesn't exist
What
anymore.
I hate too is like the people who, like the toxic players who are trying to shit on you for playing the game wrong, and then you look at it and realize that they're fucking up more so. Like, once again, I'm going to reference Final Fantasy. This was like an expansion or two ago. I was in a run, and again, I'm healing. In that game, they have class specific gear that will benefit you, and like you can throw on another class's gear, but it actually does more harm than good. It's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. It's like going to make you play shittier. So like I remember I was healing for one. It's me and my buddy Bob, and one of the DPS characters was wearing half of his gear was all healer gear. So he was going in at a disadvantage anyways because his stats were halved because of the gear he was wearing. And yet he just spent 10 minutes shitting on me because I missed a heal and it caused us to wipe on the first boss. I'm like, yeah, I fucked up, but you're in here, you were fucking up even more so because like nothing you're doing is actually benefiting us. Because now, like, your damage output is nowhere near where it should be. So now all the boss fights are taking twice as long because you're not carrying your weight. I had one slip up. Yeah, I'll acknowledge it. I screwed up. I'll do better next time, champ. But, like, don't come at me flagging me for doing this wrong when you are being so shitty about it and doing it so piss poorly that, honestly, arguably, this fuck-up could have actually been caused by you.
Yeah.
And, like, I've seen that a lot, too. Just not even in just Final Fantasy. Like, people who have no idea what they're doing, flaming you for one screw up when in all reality, like they're the reason you've lost the match or whatever. And it's just own up to the fact you're fucking up and quit making me feel like shit for one simple mistake.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
There's no grace in gaming, that is for sure.
No.
And you're never going to be perfect at it all the time.
Yeah, you have your good days and your bad days. I have games in Rocket League where I'm like the best player I've ever seen, and then I have games where I'm like, did I just fucking buy this? Like, what is happening? And you can't explain that to somebody online. Online, all they see is like the teammate sucks or the teammate is amazing and is carrying me, and there is no grace in between, and that sucks. So we spent probably an hour and 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours, talking about what's broken in the gaming community with toxicity. So why don't we switch gears and finish this out by talking about maybe some suggested fixes, some things that we can do differently, some ideas that we had to maybe combat this, to maybe push it back in the other direction to try to fucking save this crazy culture of gaming, because it's not where it needs to be and it can be a lot better. So Jett, if you don't mind, why don't you kick it off? What I'd like us to do is each talk about the 3 points, combine them if you like to, but how would you fix social media gamer toxicity? How would you fix in-person gaming toxicity? How would you fix online gaming toxicity? Jett, the floor is yours.
Honestly, a lot of these will stem into one core thing, accountability and empathy. Empathy is one of those things not a lot of people get talked about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We see these people across the screens from us as just faceless nobodies. And we're not taught as a society anymore that these are real people. They have feelings, they have good days, they have bad days, they have loved ones just like we do. And until we can get them to understand that these are real humans, I don't know if it'll ever change. We may mitigate some of this stuff, but we'll still have those trolls out there that are just spitting vitriol. We'll just have them. For social media, getting rid of a lot of the anonymity. Like, you don't have something to hide behind. A lot of these people will, they'll probably think twice about some of the stuff they say when they post, because like we've seen kind of the flip side of this, not necessarily the gaming aspect of it, but when these racist stuff get blasted online and then it starts affecting real world, maybe it gets to that point where like, hey, you're being an asshole. Like, let's talk to your family about it.
Absolutely.
Like, are you an asshole to them too? Because you may just need some fucking help.
Well, and like there's that case where a teenage girl via text was convincing her friend to commit suicide, and just boyfriend, yeah, so going at him and going at him and going at him and going at him, and to me, like, that requires accountability. That requires a court case, and I think that there's a lot more of that shit out there than we probably realize. But there's nothing to tie anything to anybody else. There's no name to the face. It's new Master 69 over and over and over. There's nothing there. I think that's a really salient point.
XX.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
The in-person toxicity, again, the empathy aspect of it too rolls in the fact that I don't necessarily always advocate for violence, but one of these days somebody's going to get popped in the mouth, and that may teach them. Like, we've all lipped off every once in a while, and like some of these kids, I've seen it at work actually. 17-year-old doing a trade and didn't get what he thought he was going to. Mom's like, look, you're old enough. You're buying your games from now on. He turns around and looks at her, goes, no, you're fucking paying for it. She didn't blink, backhanded him, grabbed him off the floor one-handed, picked him up by the ear, thank you, gentlemen, walked out the damn door.
Respect.
Like,
hell yeah.
Bravo.
Mom of the year.
Hell yeah.
Every once in a while, that's got to happen. Like, I don't advocate for any kind of abuse or anything like that, but
a reality
sometimes
check.
a pop in the mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, is that aspect of it. And then the online, it's the anonymity. Like you said, you get Pussy Destroyer 69XX or whatever the case may be. Like, all right, you're gonna start sending those dick.
Sammy's face.
Yeah. You're gonna get those.
Wishes.
You're gonna get those dick pics out. Cool. Let's see what your mother thinks about this.
Yep.
It boils down to empathy and accountability.
Cool.
Like,
yeah, I think that's a really good
the
point.
two big words.
All right, what about you, Sammy? Social media, in person, and online gaming. How you fixing it?
So I think, going to build off what he said, empathy is the biggest thing for it, because how often and I'm going to say this kind of as a broad generalization, men are shamed for having empathy because then they quote unquote wear their heart on their sleeve and they're being emotional, right? So we need to take that, get rid of it. It's not a thing. You feel for other people.
Isn't that called toxic masculinity in general? Yeah, so very much on brand for what we're talking about.
Yep, that needs to go. And then conversations like this, like, I've never met you before and I didn't know how this was going to go, but it went very well because we had open dialogue.
Thank you. I think so too.
But you guys, for the main part, as a woman on a podcast, I didn't feel overtalked, I didn't feel ignored, and I didn't feel dismissed.
Oh, sweet. Good.
And
I'm glad. That would suck. I couldn't get a fucking word in. Those guys were awful.
So I think accountability, empathy, and then conversation, like giving women a voice and hearing them out. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Zombie Kills, but she's a streamer on Twitch, and she's a very boisterous, loud, funny Black woman who's talking about these issues and is very vocal, and she's having these roundtables. Those conversations are allowing us to be like, don't you fucking treat me this way. And I think that kind of accountability is what's going to make the difference.
Yeah, good.
And that covers all three. That's how I would fix it.
Cool. I love it. Brylander?
I would go, I kind of like their point of view, really, the whole empathy and accountability thing. Again, like the women who are sending screenshots of the horrid things guys are saying, send it to their moms, like, hey, this is what your shitbag son's doing. Honestly, I think more of that needs to happen.
Yeah.
I think to fix it, it's a long-term fix, but I think it really comes down to us as parents too, making sure that we're not raising little shitheads, that we're raising respectable, functioning members of society. Like, again, my kid's real young, and he doesn't really understand like the big picture here, but like we're now just trying to start talks of like, every now and again he's a little dickhead to me and his mom, and we're trying to start the conversation of like, hey man, your words hurt. That thing you just said to mommy was super uncalled for, man. It was mean. It really hurt her feelings. She's sad now. So like we're just trying to start those conversations now, so that hopefully when he's an adult, he has some level of empathy. He understands that like his words can really crush someone. So like I think a lot of it, comes down to the parents need to do a better job of parenting. You need to take responsibility for the kid you're raising, and you need to teach them empathy and accountability, and that what they say does affect people. And I do think we need to make people not so anonymous online. Which is a gray area too, because you need to respect someone's privacy, but also when they're being a shithead, like where's the line of like respecting their privacy, but also holding them accountable in the online space for their shithead actions.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
When they start threatening someone's safety, that's when you lose all rights to privacy, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. Which also, like, where the audacity and the arrogance of someone to think like a change they're making to a video game warrants a death threat. I'll never understand those people. Like,
I was personally upset by it because I have such a connection to the PlayStation 4 Peter Parker, which is what we're going to call it now, as opposed to the new version I just saw. But at no point was my response, let me kill the person who made that call. It was like, hey, I'm bummed out because I had such a great experience and now I feel like this is different, whatever. But for some reason, for other people, like it triggers the decision to write a death threat. And that for me is like, how the fuck is that even okay? What happened to you in your life that's your go-to, or you're that unhinged that something like a video game graphic design difference is going to set you off? Like, you got way bigger problems than video games, man.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I've interrupted
it's just
you
Bryar.
guys. Yeah.
You go ahead and you interrupt Bryar as much as you want.
I've interrupted you enough. Please, by all means.
We've normalized that behavior to come unhinged in the video game world, in the movie world. I mean, look, oh my God. It wasn't Harry Potter, but it was within that same vein. People came unhinged at a slight character change. I think it was in that
Artemis
play
Fowl?
Where they made Hermione Granger black.
Oh, The Cursed Child, the play,
Yes.
the stage play.
And we've normalized that behavior, and that's absolutely terrifying.
So when I worked at GameStop, that game, the book, playwright, novel, whatever you want to call it, it had just come out. So a lady walked in and we were talking about Harry Potter, and she's like, oh, is that the new one where the Hermione is black? I'm like, it's a screenplay. They're not anything. What are you talking about? It's just in the book. She's like, well, that's not my Hermione. And then she walked out. I'm like, so did you just walk into a GameStop for no reason just to tell me you didn't like that the play version of Hermione was black and then leave? Like, what was the point of this? I didn't sell the book. It was unwarranted. It had just come out at a different store. Like, it made zero sense to me. But for some reason, she felt entitled that she could say that because white-ass Ohio little town, she felt emboldened. It was very confusing.
I do
What were you
remember
going to do to her?
just taking off to buy that book.
And I can't punch her because she's like this little old lady. So, like, then I'm in trouble for punching an old lady. But she's a racist old lady, so that makes it okay, right? You know?
It probably cancels out.
I would think
Kicker?
so.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Well, now you can't even spit on her, so that's illegal. Understandably so. You don't want the COVIDs.
Hands are tied.
Ugh.
All right, Bryar, anything else on toxicity?
No, like I said, just we need to find a way to really start holding people accountable. And I like what some businesses are doing too. Like when they find out they're like, I'm of two minds of it. On one hand, I understand that like your online persona and your real life persona in a lot of cases are two separate things. Like you conduct yourself differently online versus how you conduct yourself like in a place of business. There's been a lot of people who have lost their job for their online persona. On like one hand, it sucks is like, you know, that person who you were online caused you to lose your job in real life. And like, that's unfortunate, but also like you were such a piece of shit online that your employer found out about it and thought to themselves, I don't want this person representing me in my company, and they shit canned you. And honestly, totally within their right to do that. I think it was a right move to
Yep.
do that. And it's just, I think more of that needs to happen too. Like, I think stuff like that where it affects people's like real lives needs to happen to really start to make people realize, like, you can't just put on the face mask of I'm online and no one knows who I am and just be a dickhead. Like, there needs to be real world ramifications for your shitty online self.
Absolutely.
And I do think, it's, like I said, well within your employer's right that if they find out you're online throwing racial slurs and you're a closet white supremacist, I think it's within their right. If that doesn't jive with their business model and how they want their business to be represented, I think it's within their right to shit can you and just get you out of that company.
And that's the thing, like, about like the face mask issues that people don't understand is that these are private businesses. You don't have a right to shop there. You have the opportunity to shop there as long as you can adhere to their company policies. No shoes, no shirt, no service has been a thing. Like, I grew up in Southern California and then I moved to Ohio. But like, but that was everywhere. No matter what store you walked into, you would see a sign, no shoes, no shirt, and service, because everybody's walking around with bare feet and no shirt and swim trunks on. That's just what you wore in Southern California. It wasn't new. It wasn't like they were being inappropriate. They were just about to go swimming in the ocean. So why would they wear something else? But if you wanted to go buy something, you had to put some fucking clothes on and then go in. That's not a difficult thing to understand to me, but for some people just don't understand, if you're going to use these services, if you're going to go into these stores, if you're going to talk to these people, either you do it the way that you should do it, or you can't come in here anymore. You can't shop here anymore. You can't use these systems anymore. And I think that more of that should happen, where they're actually deciding to put the well-being of people in general over the profits of the toxic people, which is what's been happening. And that's why it's so broken.
Well, like, a lot of people are hiding behind the shield that is the First Amendment. Like, well, it gives me the right to to say whatever. Okay, fine, but what it doesn't do is protect you from what you said. It's not a guard against the ramifications of your actions. Yeah. You can say whatever, to whoever, but that person can still just bop you in the jaw once. Like, it protects your words, but not the consequences of those words. And I think if you're gonna fix just toxicity in general, not even so much for gaming, just in the world, like, consequences need to take place, and they need to be stepped up, and they need to affect people in real life, in the real world, as opposed to the online world.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And with the online gaming toxicity, and now we have kids going to school online, like, where are we drawing the line? Like, because they're still hiding behind a screen.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, but in like my daughter's online classes, there's a teacher present. She is watching what's happening. She is going to, if something happens, she's going to step in. And right now there's no oversight. That other person on Facebook had said that she had reported to an admin, this issue going on. And the response from the administrator was, hey, that's just boys and that's just the community. You got to get used to it. That's not a person who is actually holding on to the responsibilities as an administrator. And then I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Bryar, did you have anything else?
To go along with what you said, we really need to get rid of the whole "that's just boys being boys" thing.
Yeah,
that's got to go.
That's shitty boys being boys and not growing up into men is what the problem is.
And that is boys being boys. Unfortunately, that's not a man being a man.
Yep.
And like, if I find out my son, as he grows up, starts pulling shit like that, I will destroy him.
Yeah, man.
He'll lose. I will take everything away from him. That boy will sit in a room with nothing. Because, like, again, back to my point earlier, it's our job now as parents to make sure this shit stops here.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not going to raise a little asshole. Me and my wife have had multiple conversations on that. Like, we both acknowledge, like, it's our job to raise him to be a respectful person as opposed to just a disrespectful little shit.
That's the dream.
That's
for all
the dream.
Of us, for every parent everywhere.
So far, it's pretty good. My kid knows how to say please and thank you, and he does it without being told. So, I mean, I'll take that win.
That's a win.
It's baby steps, but we'll take it.
All right.
That's more than most adults.
Yeah.
So for me, before we wrap up, my social media and online is linked together, and it's what's already been said. I think we should completely do away with online anonymity. I think that you should be allowed to browse what you want to online anonymously, buy what you want anonymously. But the second you come onto a social platform, you can talk to other people, you can have impact on other people, you can play games with other people. I think we need to kill that. In addition to, so my previous work was with GameStop. I'm a videographer now. I'm also a moderator on IGN.com. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And The name that I have on my Facebook is the exact name that you find on IGN. It's devon.de.mccarty. Like, my name is on there because that's important to me. Because if I'm going to hold you accountable for what you say, you need to be able to tie back what I say to you. That's important to me. And even like on my my gamer tag on PlayStation, it's at designated Devon. Devon's in there. I always put my name in there because I want to have my own level of accountability. So if I say something that's wrong, somebody can find me and check me on it. And it also, in the back of my head, it's like, it's not that hard to find me. It's not that hard to research what I've said. So let's be very specific about what we're saying. Let's make sure, yeah, I can get mad. Yeah, I can get frustrated. I'll go after people, whatever, but my name's always with it because I'm always going to stand behind what I say. And I think that so far what I've seen is it's nothing but usernames, whatever configuration of interests or hobbies or colors or likes or whatever. It's, so Bryar, do you want to share what your PlayStation username is?
Well, technically it's my wife's because the PlayStation's technically hers.
Right, but
it's Rogue Panda Cat.
Jet,
25.
What's yours?
Psycho 247, SYKO 247.
Sammy, what's yours?
Sammy Slaughter 666.
So at least you got your name in there. But I mean,
yeah, I was 13.
But if we could do away with all of the anonymity, and then it does what everybody else said so far, is it holds you accountable for what you say.
Mm-hmm.
So then if somebody does flag you, and then it does, you do rise to the top, and then your job gets notified, hey man, do you know that when your person isn't playing games here, he's a piece of shit online? Yeah, he's playing Grand Theft Auto. We don't care what he's playing, but it's not what he's playing, it's what he's saying to other people. Is that the type of person you want working for your company? I think that's where we need to get to, because, my business shouldn't care what I do on off hours. I disagree. I think if you're going to work for a company, it is important what you're like and what you believe and what you stand for and how you present yourself and how you treat other people. Like, that shit matters. And there's so far, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or anywhere else, there's nothing to anchor you to anything that you say. And there's this just level of emboldened, toxic, waveforms, I guess, where they can just say whatever they want to whoever they want without any fear of reprisal. And that's what's got us here today. That's why people are making death threats online. That's why people are asking for news on a regular basis. That's why people are reaching out and saying whatever they want to, because there's nothing to tie back. And I think that's got to stop. If we're going to fix that, I think that's where we got to start. We got to start there.
Well, to go along with that, though, quick counterpoint, there has to be a way to police and delete and stop fake accounts too. Because realistically, there's nothing stopping me from grabbing your profile pic, starting a Facebook account under your name, and just going nuts with it.
Right.
And that's a real thing. And that has really affected a lot of people. People have lost jobs and relationships and friends and homes and families because some asshole made a fake account under their name and just had a field day with it.
Right.
So I agree.
Do have to have some kind of administrative investigation purposes. Let's say I did. Let's say I took your profile pic, went rough shot on it, but you can be like, no, look, here I was. This is what I was doing on these days. Here's the IP address.
Right.
Obviously it was not me. Cool, you're golden. You put out a statement that says, look, we researched this. This was not our associate. We're golden. It's a simple prospect. It's just a costly one.
And so to me, I would sign up for that. I would be okay with that. Would you be into it? Would it be worth it to you to know that at any point your account could be banned, from playing online? Yeah, you can still play your games and shit like that. But every once in a while, if somebody tries to make a fake account on your behalf, really rake your name through the mud, that you would have to be part of an investigation to clear your name to make sure that that wasn't you. To me, I would opt into that because I know who I am. I know what I would say. I know what I would do. And so it would be worth the week or however long it would take for me to get my account access unbanned, because I know that at the end of the day, the entire community has been raised to a better level, because right now it's down here for the most part. And if we're going to get up here, I'll suffer a little bit and wait a little bit and then, clear my name to play again if it makes it better for everybody. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Are you three?
As long as, let's say it's Sony. We're talking PS5. I get banned. As long as Sony reaches out to me and goes, hey, look, here's the situation. This what was said. What is your side of the story? What do you have to defend yourself? Cool. If Sony just goes, no, we're shutting you down until we can figure out, and you go, what the fuck? Then there's the issues. You have to be able to defend, almost treat it like a court of law. You have to be able to defend yourself. for these situations.
And I'll come back to that. I have an example about YouTube that I'm gonna go into in a second, but I want Sami and Bryar to weigh in first.
Bryar, you go first.
I agree with Jett. Like, if I have the ability to defend myself and explain, like, hey man, this is what I was doing at this time, on this day, at this time, at this exact moment, and I can have IP addresses to back me, and like, this clearly was not me. I didn't do this, etc. If I can have the ability to present my case as opposed to just Sony taking the reins and shutting me out until they do whatever, like, I don't trust them enough to really represent me and investigate that it wasn't me on their own. I want to be able to have the input and help with said investigation to clear the fact that it wasn't me online being an asshole, it was some other asshole under my name. If I have the ability to participate in that, in the clearing of my name, then yeah, 100% I'm here for it.
I agree.
But
I agree too. Yep.
I just don't trust them to do a good enough job on their own without my input.
Cool.
Because it's my name. It's me being dragged through the mud. They really don't have anything into it. It's just them passively trying to see if some random person is who they say they are. Right. It doesn't matter to them as much as my name matters to me.
For sure.
But yeah.
Okay. Now Sami.
I'm torn. Part of me wants to say yes, but part of me is absolutely not. Hear me out on this. One, sure. VPNs. I'm pretty avid about using them on my personal tech and then on my PlayStation. And then who's to say that someone isn't going to create a bot that someone can use my PlayStation to create a second profile to go do these things?
Right.
So the tech is there for this to go really smoothly, but there's also tech to make this the worst possible thing known to man.
Yeah.
So for me, part of me wants to say yes because I do see the good in it, and I want to see the best in situations, but part of me also knows and is cynical enough to, that's never going to happen. You're ones and zeros to them. You're a statistic. Like, oh, this is the third time someone's made a bot. It's her. They're done.
Yeah.
I don't want to put up with that. I don't want to deal with that.
And that's fair. And that's my whole concern is on this can't be automated. If we're going to do this, you need to have real people who are investigating the cases that are presented. I don't give a shit what the volume is. Have people staffed to do it. The issue that I brought up a second ago about YouTube, we just did this episode on Enola Holmes. Bryar and Shelby broke it down. Movie just came out to Netflix. When I uploaded it to YouTube, it got flagged because for whatever reason, there's some issue with Enola Holmes and Netflix and copyright issues. I don't know what's going on with it. So it got flagged and I tried to appeal it. And so I was like, all right, maybe it's the title. Maybe they think I'm just uploading the movie without looking at it or listening to it, because there's not one audio clip or video clip of that movie in that episode. All it is Bryar and Shelby explaining what they went through. That's, what the experience was. And that we've been doing the same thing every single episode of Retcon aired. Like that's what the show is. But for some reason, and for some reason, YouTube just saw Enola Holmes and banned it. I tried 3 different times to use a different title structure to do something else, and each time it was completely banned, and I had no recourse. There was nobody I could call, nobody I could email, nobody I could talk to. That's it. So that's the only episode that you'll never see on YouTube because it can't get there. Now I have to, it's on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere else. But since it's an automated system, there's nothing I can do to stop it. It's a broken system.
And like they flagged it for the weirdest thing too. What was it? It was spam and
and deceitful practices and stuff like
deceitful.
that. Yeah, like I was trying to talk about Enola Holmes and sell you something else, which is not at all what the show is. But it was automated and there was nothing I could do to stop it. So for me, my big concern would be if we go this route with no more anonymity, let's use specific names, and then somebody starts making bots and malware and starts, ruining people's accounts and stuff. If that system's automated, I think it's going to be a failure. If there's actual people manning it, then I think we can have some more success, but I think that would have to, that's a big cost. And who's going to eat that cost? Is it, does Sony have to have real people monitors? Does Xbox, does Switch, does online, and I think if we're going to really fix everything, to me, that's worthy expenditure, I think, but I'm not in game dev, so that's not up to me.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then for in person, I think we need to start empowering workers to not stand for bullshit anymore. No more Karens, no more Chads. If you're going to shop in a store, exactly like we just said, no shoes, no shirt, no service. Every business is a private business and has a policy. If you can't handle being an adult in a store, you can't shop there anymore. Get the fuck out. Go shop online. Go do curbside pickup, whatever. If you can't handle interacting with people in a way that's appropriate and responsible and is a human talking to another human, then I'm sorry, but you're not welcome to shop in our stores anymore. I think we've gotten away on this whole the customer's always right thing because corporations are designed to make money. GameStop has not had a great trajectory in the last couple of months through the pandemic, through some kind of bad word of mouth experiences, through a couple other things to where a lot of people are looking at GameStop as like, this is the next retail business to die. My problem with that is that people have taken that concept and have used it to just treat employees like shit. Jett, I don't know if it's gotten worse in the last, 8 months or 6 months or whatever of the pandemic, but I know when I was there, people just treated GameStop workers like shit. You guys are just stealing the games anyway. You guys are just throwing stuff in the dumpster anyway. You guys don't really care. You guys aren't really gamers. You guys are whatever, and. Yeah. None of that was true, but there was only so much I could say because I needed the job. I had bills to pay for and, was it worth it for me to lose my temper knowing that I could probably lose my job? And I think we need to remove that. I think you need to have really good accountability on what people can and cannot do as far as the employees. But then I think you need to have a really good barometer of like what the expectation is for your customers. The second you walk into this store, you act accordingly. If you can't handle that, the door's right there. You just walk through it. You walk right back through it and we'll see you around online. Happy to take your money or whatever else. But if you can't handle shopping with us, you can't shop with us. I think that needs to change immediately. It's dangerous enough that, Jett, if you have to go into store, Sammy, if you have to go into your store, that's dangerous enough on its own, without having the extra layer of people just being complete, total assholes. But
I deal with cell phones for a living, and that is like people's number one. If their phone doesn't work, it's as bad as their car being broken.
Yeah, absolutely. They're trying to get those dick pics, man, and you can't get in the way of that.
I send those dick pics.
That's it. I think you get away with anonymity, and then I think you empower the workers to not handle any more bullshit. I'm not giving you an open pass to, like Jett was saying earlier, sometimes someone's going to get bopped. I think that there's some warrant for that. There's, one guy specifically that I remember that I was so close to quitting my job and clocking out and going, let's go outside right now because this job isn't worth it today. You are worth it today. You're my only focus. I'm not saying we get there, but I'm saying that we need to really switch the scale on the customers being right versus worker rights and equality and just general respect and just unfuck that whole thing because it's very broken.
Yeah.
I actually had some on this on my list too, and I completely forgot about it. Like, I agree with that. That employees need to be able to stand up for themselves without the fear of losing their job. Management, store managers and all that need to stand up for their employees without the fear of repercussions from upper management. And upper management needs to take care of their employees at the bottom as well. They're the ones who see the people. They're the ones who need to, be protected, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like you need to protect your employees. And I understand the customer's always right mentality, but it's got to go. It's got to stop. 9 out of 10 times that customer is just being an asshole because they know you can't do anything back to them. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I actually think COVID has killed the customer's always right mentality.
Good.
I really do. At least in our area, we're not empowered to backtalk customers, but I've definitely been empowering my employees because I don't have a supervisor at the moment. Correcting or asking a customer to treat you differently is not bad customer service. That's probably been the toughest pill to swallow the last 8 months.
And so I've kind of seen the opposite. I've seen way more people outraged that they're being told to put their mask on, to stay away from other people, to, stand in front of the glass pane because that's why it's here. Don't stand over here where you can see me. Stand in front of this thing. That's why it's here, you stupid bastard. I just think some people just don't think for whatever reason, and they don't care, and then they get outraged because, it's my right as American to shop here. No, it's really, really not, and that's how dumb you are for not understanding that.
And to go along with that too, I'll even reference this example. people can't say whatever because they want to. Like there was one day while Devon was still the ASL, him and I were working together, and I watched him ban someone from our store because of the way they were talking. We at our location, there was a kids play area right outside our front door, because like it was at the it was right where like 3 hallways met. We were at the corner of it, and there's a play area right there for the little ones. This dude was trading a system, and he didn't have all the parts and pieces, so we couldn't accept it. So he was going to leave. We told him, like, either you get this small defective amount, or you just take it with you, or you go get the rest of the shit that you knew you needed to have, and you come back. And he chose that option, but he was swearing us up and down as he left, and all the kids heard him because they all were staring at him. So the second he came back, Devon banned him from the store, just because, like, you can't do that. You can't act like that. You can't treat us like that because of your fuck up, for starters, and also because you're a grown-ass adult. Start acting like it.
And you came in here to sell me something that was not a complete system.
Yeah.
I told you I can't sell it because that's not how you bought it. You didn't buy it with missing pieces, because if you bought it with missing pieces, I'd imagine you'd flip out just like you're flipping out now. It's not worth it to me. It's not, the system wasn't worth it. The store wasn't worth it. The work, everything about that guy was ridiculous. Completely ridiculous.
Yeah, people need
Choked out sometimes. I agree. Go ahead. If you're not going to say it, I'll say it. Sometimes people.
I mean, sometimes you just need to give people. You give someone the people's elbow. Just from the cash wrap. Just
smell what the rock is cooking. And go ahead and show them.
Yeah, I don't know. People just need to start acting like adults. Need to grow the hell up, and you can't just say whatever to retail workers because they can't say anything back to you because they lose their job. Like, that shit needs to go.
Yeah.
If a person's being an asshole, I mean, let the employee tell them they're being an asshole. Fuck it. Why
Are we
not?
not supposed to do that? Just kidding.
Apparently.
I mean, you're supposed to do it in a very professional
Before this
way.
roundtable, yeah, you weren't supposed to do that. After this roundtable, it's a whole new world, you guys. Gloves come off. Go have fun.
I got a customer complaint from a couple of weeks ago because of that. Didn't want to throw his mask in, and he got asthma overnight. So I rang him up and was like, "Guys should probably start shopping online because, I'm going to force this. Curbside's out there." Went to corporate.
My wife works for Cleveland Clinic, which is a pretty big hospital, and so she works with a physician who has been asked on countless times, "Can you write me a script to say that I can't wear my face mask because I have asthma?" He's like, "No, put your mask on. You can breathe fine. I don't care if you have asthma or not. Put your mask on." So like even doctors think that's insane.
Yep. Well, not in our area. Not in our area. We actually have our, not to get on politics, but county health department we have one lady that's anti-vax, anti-mask, and that this is a hoax. And she's
part of your
our
health department?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's
she
exciting.
also charged Medicare, so like the state insurance, for prayer. So like that's fine if that's your thing, but I am an outspoken atheist. I think everybody's choosing their own. But don't do that.
Well, and I have, beliefs and stuff, but like I don't think you charge for it. You don't.
You should go to the doctor for prayer.
Yeah, and those aren't billable hours. So that's a little bit different than I've ever seen before. That's a cool way to approach it, though. Right on Montana. Okay, so we've been going for probably 2.5 hours. It's almost 1 a.m. where Brian and I are, but this conversation was worth it enough to me to keep going. No, you're fine. It was a really interesting conversation. I think that's why it went the way it went. So before we close it out, did any of you have any final thoughts about gaming toxicity, how we're going to fix it, or what's going on in the future?
If any of this offended you listeners out there, all I'm going to ask is that you take a beat and you think about why. Why did this upset you, and why are you offended? And then I want you to come back to this conversation with an open mind.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Just be better humans, guys. That's all it takes. Just be better humans.
Yeah.
You can scope it. At the end of the day, that's what it'll boil down to. You're a better human. Everybody else around you will be better, and all of this will improve.
Yeah, what was it like? You're the most like the 5 or 10 people that you're around the most or whatever. And so if you're an asshole, the people you're going to influence are going to be assholes. If you're cool, the people you're going to influence are going to be cool. So it's what kind of world do you want to live in? Because I've been living in this one and it's been awful for a while. Oh, what about you, Bryar? Any other final thoughts?
I don't know. Maybe let's just everyone collectively start acting like adults. That'd be cool. I'm kind of tired of this. The comment I made earlier of no one leaves the high school mentality. Like, maybe we should. Maybe we should go ahead and just leave high school behind us. Start acting like grown ass adults. Stop shitting on people for having different interests. For playing a game on an easy difficulty versus your insane difficulty. For just. And quit getting so upset about online games. They are a game. It is supposed to be where you relax and chill out.
Yeah.
You'd hope.
Chill the hell out.
Get upset about actual matters like starving children.
Yeah, man, do something.
Be mad.
Because, like, at what point does game development overall just say, no, fuck you. No more DLC. No more games. You ungrateful bastards. Every time we make anything, and we're going to be late, so we put in crunch into place, even though we said we weren't going to before because we're trying to get this online, done on time because you're going to freak out if we don't. And now we're going to get filleted for doing that. Like, at some point, you got to chill out and just acknowledge the fact that these are people that work jobs, that have families, that have friends, that are just trying to pay their rent and then go home. And you have no right to flip out on them just because something's either not to your liking or taking too long or not as good as you thought it should be. It's completely ridiculous. So we spent, 3 hours or however long talking about this conversation. I hope that tells you how important this is, that, we had just met Jett and Sami right before this, whole podcast started, but we believed it enough to where we worked through it. We got to it and, we knocked this whole thing out. So it's a very, very important conversation to all of us. We hope, especially like Sami said, if you're offended about that, gut check yourself. What is it about that made you offended? Is it that you wanted to be able to say anything? Should you be able to say everything? Because so far we've seen your ability to say everything and it's not great. So why don't we go ahead and shut this down? Jett, Sami, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being the first time collaborative guests on the Retcon Air podcast.
Yes, thank you. You were our first collab, so.
Very cool.
Hey,
See, you scratch our back, we scratch yours. So it works out. Bryar, I'm sorry that Shelby couldn't join us, but thank you for joining me as well. I know it's pretty late. We both got work in the morning, but I appreciate you sticking it out with us.
Get some sleep, guys.
Thank you,
man.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
And then for everybody else at home that's been listening, thank you for all of you that wrote in. Thank you for hanging out with us. Episodes of Retcon Air go live on the 1st and the 15th of every month. Color Me Geeked Podcast, when do you guys go live? How can they talk to you guys? I want to make sure that we plug you as well.
So you can find us on Twitch, YouTube. We typically post a video every Tuesday and every Saturday, depending on the topics. We like to hear from our community, and we like to just talk video games.
Very
Also
cool.
books and movies.
So if you're into more gaming, books, and movie content, definitely check out the Color Me Geeked podcast. Jett and Sami are awesome. You've learned that along the way. Me and Bryar do stuff all the time. Shelby's getting ready to do Retcon Reads. There's a ton of content all over there, and we're trying to do our best to make sure that we are as non-toxic as possible. So enjoy us. Enjoy the Color Me Geeked podcast, non-toxic podcast for your listening pleasure. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for listening. We very much hope that you and everybody else strive to become better, do more, and let's just start treating each other as better people. So that's it for this episode of Retcon Air. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.